No Star Connection Podcast Network listeners and viewers, welcome back inside the Wrestling War Zone, Monday Night Wars podcast retrospective series. I'm JT. Joining me as always, as ever, is my partner Chad. Chad, how are you?
Good. Only 99 to show 200.
Oh, crazy, huh? Until I was gonna say double digits, but triple double digit. Whatever. Anyway,
I was going to say
two bills, two bills.
two bills. Yeah,
Almost there. Another 4.5
almost,
years, 5 years
almost.
perhaps, but you never know. Time flies when you're having fun here inside the War Zone. We're going through the history of Monday Night Wars. If you're listening on one of our podcast feeds, you can check us out on YouTube. If you want to watch Chad and I talk, we are available there. And you can go ahead while you're on YouTube, subscribe, give us a like, leave a comment if you wish. But like I mentioned, also, we're available on all podcast applications as well in audio format on the show. And it's a big one tonight, buddy. We Sorry, I activated Siri for a moment.
Oh,
We It's a big one for us tonight. The last episode was episode 100.
you activate. Well, hang on, time out. So you activate Siri when you say it's a big one? Is that,
It's a big one. Oh, she said
that's such a
hello.
common occurrence in your house? That
No,
phrase?
on my
Oh,
MacBook, there's a Siri button
okay.
near the volume, so I hit that by accident.
I thought she was just so used to hearing that.
She is. Oh, big
Yeah,
one. All right,
um,
all right. I'm in. AI is getting crazy. That's
yeah,
it.
sure.
Chat JT. All right. So anyway, last episode was episode 100. We covered Starrcade 1996. Tonight we're going to kick off a new season, like a 100 episode season, new centennial here on the show. By wrapping up a year, we're going to close out 1996. It has been a long time coming, buddy. We weren't even on the North South Connection when we started 1996.
No.
That's how long ago it was that we kicked off this calendar year. So tonight we're going to cover the Raw Nitro from December 30th, 96. And then in 2 weeks, we're going to do a full kind of 96 year in review to kind of
Yeah.
recap everything. Because it's our first real full calendar year. Because we did 1995, but we started in September. So this is really our first like 12 months of both shows that we've done. So we're going to do a little,
Yeah.
look back at 96. And then a month from today, we'll be back by kicking off 1997. So
Right.
any thoughts on that before we dive in?
No, I mean, I think it's just such a big year in U.S. wrestling history. And you think about that, like with the time that we've done the podcast, it's been a long time. 4.5 years is a long time. But just, we've watched a lot of matches, just watching the Raw, Nitro, and pay per views and clashes. So we watched a good chunk of matches. We've seen a lot of trends. And it'd be kind of cool to just shoot the breeze for a bit, reminisce about 96, some of the stuff that we observed throughout the year, really deep diving in, and then kind of give a little preview of 97 too. This show, as you mentioned, though, the two shows we talk about tonight are an interesting kind of jumping off point because like with Nitro, we'll get to it. There's some holdover with the Piper Hogan stuff, but then we kickstart the next
Yeah.
angle, main event angle immediately. So that's in full gear. And then on Raw, you're really seeing what they thought would be probably like one of the cornerstone things they would show in video packages for what they thought would be the WrestleMania main event,
Right.
which would be that Sean Brett face to face. So it's
For
interesting.
sure. It was going that way. And it'll be interesting to do the year in review because if you think about it, the first 5 months of 96 that we covered are probably going to be the last uneventful stretch of this podcast that we do.
Yeah.
Like starting in May with the NWO, like shit is happening now constantly until the end of this. Right. I mean, that's like those first 5 months were kind of, we had good stuff, we had bad stuff, but it was like not a lot of consequence happening week to week.
Mhm.
As soon as Hall showed up, Nitro's been consequential since. WWF's not quite there yet, but they're going to get there. And one show or the other has shit going now, like till the end.
Yeah, like if we ever make it fall 2000s, a little weird, but WCW's in such disarray by that point that there's like new stuff going on,
Yeah.
or just how terrible overall the product is.
Right.
We can see if it
But
starts to.
either way, both shows
Um,
have like live stuff
Yeah,
happening every week. Like that early part of '96, like Raw was just full on. In the stuff we're still seeing the taped mode, old school. We have weeks where stuff didn't happen, and same with Nitro. It was like a lot of it was rinse repeat. It was exciting, but it just felt still kind of old school. The NWO is really what kind of launched us into like the next level of live Monday Night Wrestling. And I think
it
that
became must watch. Yep.
yeah, even in a year like now, still big stuff happening at the end of the year in WWF. Like you get the Austin, who done it stuff comes in. Like so, there's like still big shit happening.
Right.
So yeah, my point is like '96 is a big transitional year for us because it really
Mm-hmm.
kicked off the Monday Night Wars. I think officially, specifically with the NWO, to now like
Sure.
going all the time.
Right.
All right, so why don't you lead us in here? We're going to start with the Nitro. It's our last Nitro '96, and next episode will be fun. We should look at like the first and the last. So like, we'll start with the last today, and just think about where they were a year ago, and with the January 1st episodes, right? We know what Raw had going on, the Raw Bowl, Diesel Mabel, which I mean that seems like years ago. That was our main event on the first Raw of 1996. Was Diesel and Mabel?
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yeah, the January 1st Nitro was the one in the Omni. It's actually probably like a decent, it's a bigger
But I had
show
like
for
Hogan
me.
and Flair, or Savage and Flair, whatever it was.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah, I
even
think it
that
was
feels so
Savage
different.
Flair. I think
Yeah.
it was a Savage Flair, one of the 9 times we saw that.
Right. And even that feels like dramatically crazy different than where we've been. So,
Yep. So we get a cold open.
Mhm.
Two limos pull up. You can see the hierarchy right away where you got like the jobber limo. But the Giants in that one. And then the main guys, Hall, Nash, Six, Trillionaire Ted, Bischoff, and Hogan are in the second limo. So they come out. Hogan says, "We're rolling." They go over all the belts they have. I did like that he mentions the U.S. Championship, even though they don't have
Yes.
that in their possession. That was funny. He says, "Liz is looking sweet."
She looks so miserable still.
Probably legitimately.
Right.
Yeah. Then Giant comes in, points at the heavyweight championship, and says, "Do you see the nameplate on the belt?" Hogan says, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, brother! When you mess with Hollywood, you don't drop the ball. Even if you stutter step a bit, we are so powerful." Giant says, so let's just hypothesize for harmonious sake that I did drop the ball." While while they're interacting during this whole segment, Hall and Nash are kind of off camera, and oh my god, they are such like the two old guys in the Muppets. Like they are
Mhm.
just like adding all sorts of little one-liners. So when John says, "Let's just say I did drop the ball," Hall goes, "Yeah, it was a big fumble rooski." Just clouded on it. So Giant brings up World War III, says he does want the shot at the championship. Hogan says, "Listen, it's all in the family. They needed him to go through those 60 guys, but that's really like insurance. Like it's a
Mhm.
buy. So he should just go make another movie, chill out. And if they need it, if for some reason Hogan loses the belt, they have that assurance where they have that guaranteed title shot, like in their back pocket." And Giant then says, "So I pretty much have no chance to be the lead dog. That's what you're telling me." Right as he says that, Hall and Nash both chime in. "Yeah, pretty much."
That's it.
And Hogan says, "Don't make the mistake of dropping the ball again." So you can see, like, throughout all this,
Mhm.
like, tempers are starting to, flare up a little bit. There's a little animosity here. Trillionaire Ted finally gets smart and says, "Get the camera out of the way," shoves the camera
Right.
out.
Yeah.
So what do you think about all this? This was pretty
I
good.
liked it. It was a hot start. I mean, it was intense. Like you said, right away, started off, you could tell we're likely headed for a Giant. He's gonna, split off here, and he's upset. He wants a title shot. Hogan's holding it over him, and you're only going to keep him at bay for so long. We'll see if Hulk realizes that. But he's trying to use the fumble against him to try and get him to stay in line. Like, look, you fucked up. We're keeping you around. This is where you want to be. The buy was interesting, like way to put it. Basically, not only do they have the insurance, but also gives me a month off, right? Because I don't have to defend against you like I would if someone else, and
Right.
I can just chill and not worry about it. The only thing I didn't like was the usage of the nameplate on the belt because it's like, why is Giant's name still on there? It makes WCW just look sloppy and stupid that they didn't change it. And then
Yeah.
calling attention to it, like Hogan is such an egomaniac. Like, why wouldn't he have his name on the belt like day one? So I didn't care for that too much. Like, it didn't add to the story to me. Like, it just makes them look inept. Like, why would it still say John? Unless you just say NWO because it's the NWO's belt, WCW's belt. People didn't get it. It didn't be able to update it because it was taken out of the company. But you think Hogan's the kind of guy that would write his name over it or something. So
Yeah.
I don't know. That part was just a little weird. Like and I only say it because that's like an ongoing thing in the future of
Mhm.
WCW, isn't it? Don't they like get lazy with changing the nameplates and stuff? And like it's kind of
Well,
like a thing where like the wrong names on the belt more than once, where they.
yeah, we'll have to check to see if we get a week or two in. I mean, when they really start going
Yeah.
crazy with the title
I feel
changes.
like it's a thing in the future where like it should have said someone else's name and it didn't, and I don't know. It just makes them look like they're trying to portray themselves as number one. It just felt like a little low rent. But beyond that, it was all like story wise within everything. It's awesome. I just think they kind of told on themselves on something they didn't need to tell on themselves for. Like just let it go. Either
Right.
fix it or let it go, or explain. Have DiBiase say, well, whatever. Like who gives a fuck?
Yeah,
It's
we
our belt
defaced the
now.
belt. That's I think they could have added a little.
Yeah, just say it. Just throw a little line in, or have Tony say it. Like, oh, because Tony explains everything, right? Just explain
Yep.
it. Say, hey, we all saw what happened. Giants' names on the belt. Well, our belt guys couldn't update it because Hogan took it. We haven't touched the belt since, and they obviously don't
Right.
care because they've already defaced the belt anyway. So, like, at least just give us something besides just almost making it like they're mocking themselves at a time where they're trying to present themselves as like a serious number one.
Right. So same opening. I mean, we'll see. You know, we did talk about that. Like we track it. So at the end of 1996,
Yep.
they haven't changed that yet. So we may be well into 97. We'll see. I mean, we're 6 months in. So to Hogan turning, he's still ripping off the red and yellow. They're in Knoxville, Tennessee. They do let us know that with the nameplate. I thought Knoxville might be kind of a fringe city where they might not have said like, "Hey, here's where we're at." Feels pretty regional.
Yep.
Tony does let us know it's standing room only, and starts us off with a big where the big boys play, and then they kind of recap Starrcade. Larry says that there's been a crack in the NWO foundation. We get some steals of the Giant versus Luger match. They really put that match over throughout this
Yes.
show, both for like Giant and his rising tension with the NWO, but mainly for Luger and like how big of a win
Mhm.
it was and the
And you had the
momentum.
Sting stuff too. So I mean, a lot did happen in that match.
Yeah.
So yeah. They also
So
say they really hammer home too that Piper's not part of WCW, and they even
right.
talk like we could really use a leader like him, but
Yeah.
he
Yep.
was one and
Loner.
done. He made it clear he was one and done. He's
Hmm.
not signed a contract. He's not part of the team. He just wanted to shut Hogan up and move on.
Right. So we start with the opener, which is a rematch from last week on Nitro. It's Public Enemy versus Amazing French Canadians. Do the whole spill, the national anthem. We know that. Uh, Tony, this was also a recurring theme on this show where Tony lets us know the little guys are here. Larry immediately says Rey Mysterio's here, so just a dick
He
comment
says
from
a
Larry.
Mexican midget match. Tony says he says
Yeah,
it'll be electric.
yes, a lot of midgets. That term gets thrown around a ton in the lead up. So Canadians attack even before Public Enemy gets in the ring. Oh, so we are in Knoxville. Knoxville has an infamous fan. She is in the front row. The old grandmother is in the front row. She's on the hard camera side, so she can only see the back of her head. She's right in the front on this show. She doesn't, I mean, she's animated. They don't spill out to the outside to where she can really get into the heel's face, like we'll see next time they come to
I was gonna say,
Knoxville.
when's the infamous one with Hogan? Is that the next?
It's
Is that
it's
her?
like leading. It's like almost a year, I think, to the day because I want to say it's leading up to Starrcade '97.
All right, and she's the
Um,
one the infamous one where he's like yelling at the
yeah, where
lady. Or
she's
whatever.
like really shaking her fist at him, and
Yeah.
Hogan's like really. But I mean, she's giving the hills the business throughout this show, where you can see like she's standing up and like really going at him. So just a great fan. Rocco Rock has some good punches on Jacques Rougeau, but this is the same thing we saw last week. It's just a garbage, like 3-minute
Mhm.
brawl. Neither one of these teams, I don't know. Like, I'm not really digging either one. Like right now, Public Enemy
It's been a
was,
year too for Public Enemy. I think they debuted on that New Year's episode.
yeah. To me, they've really lost a lot
Mhm.
throughout the year. Um,
They've been overshadowed. Like when they came in, the division didn't have the depth it has now. Like there was a big pickup, and then since then, like the Steiner showed up, then the Road Warriors showed up, but you had Luger and Sting for a while. Harlem Heat picked up steam, and then the Outsiders came in. The Faces of Fear took over. Like so, like the division really kind of gained a lot of depth, and they just kind of stayed toward the bottom. And I love the Quebecers, like one of my favorite tag team of all time,
yeah,
probably. But they're washed here. Like they're not. They don't fit at all in this realm. Like they feel
no,
very outdated. They don't feel modernized at all.
yeah.
I think
Jock
I
feels
think
very old.
they should have went back to WWF. I think, and like '96 WWF could have really used them
Maybe I,
in
I
the
even
ring
feel like though, just
early.
their
I'm
whole,
talking early to mid. I'm not. I don't
yeah,
mean now with
okay.
Bulldog and Owen, but like you wouldn't have taken the Quebecers like in the spring and
Oh
summer
yeah, I
with
mean
the
it was
fucking
so
Godwins and
bad. It was
the
so
Rockers
bad.
and them. Yeah.
They feel very regional.
Hmm.
Like you think about like 96 is not state of the art, but like with everything else on this show, the Amazing French Canadians more than any other feels like, oh, this is like 1984,
Yeah.
something mid Atlantic, like you would see. Like it feels very
Especially with Parker too, because he feels like a territory
Parker's there
act.
too. Yep.
So it's
Uh,
like they just don't fit because they also aren't really involved. It kind of happens a lot with like in this era, guys when they're not involved in the NWO stuff. So they feel like extra out random too. Like they're not really doing anything of note. They're not in the tag title picture. They're not fighting the NWO. Like they feel old. It's like kind of like what are they doing? I don't know.
yeah. So on commentary, they talk about Parker's little mustache that he's trying to grow. Larry wants the man to take out the earrings and to grow a mustache. So some word of advice there from Larry. Tony agrees with it. So I was like, all right.
Well, they also call he calls Parker Errol Flynn with the little
Oh,
mustache. He's got
yes,
the VKM modern day
it
mustache,
is.
the
It
little
is
thin
very
pencil.
thin,
Yeah.
very thin. So basically, like at the end of this match, the Quebecers like take a walk. Public Enemy runs them down, hits them on the aisleway. Then they bring them back. They set up the table. Rocco does his thing where Grunge is gonna help him come over from the ring to the floor through the table, but Jock moves, so both of Public Enemy goes crashing through the table, and then Jock rolls. It's Pierre, right? Yeah, they actually. Oh no, Pierre hits the big
Right. They
senton.
put Rock in the ring,
Yeah, they
and
put
they hit the
Rocco Rock and
Tower of Quebec or
pin
whatever.
him. Yeah, yeah. So 1 star. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know. It's a neutral.
It's
Whatever.
stupid. Yeah. It's one bump and a bunch of bullshit. Like nothing else. It's aimless. Not hot enough to me to open this show. Like it just is kind of whatever. Like you think Public Enemy's coming out, we're gonna get like a big garbage spot to get everyone fired up, but and you mentioned earlier, but this building is like very tiny for WCW Nitro at this point. Like it almost feels like a throwback to earlier in the year. Like this would have been one we would have seen in January, but they've gotten so big it was like jarring a little bit to see them in this building. It felt like this is where like Raw would be here, and it's set up weird too. So like it just looks very odd, like the way the stairs are to the side, the open little section. Like I just felt like they were a little bit beyond. It maybe like a vintage place, but they don't really talk it up as such. They don't, oh, we're in the historic, not, like they don't like play it up that way. So it just makes it seem like a little, especially the night after Starrcade. Like it's like their biggest show of the year with all the hype. And then it's like you think you may be getting a lot of people tuning in and it doesn't feel as maybe big time as they, have been.
Yeah, it's a couple things. Like it's kind of weird. They refused to run Chattanooga because they could have went to the UTC arena very easily. I think.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually see like I wonder if like WWF actually had that blocked already because they were doing Final Four
Or I
there.
say they may have,
Maybe.
yeah. They ran there
Um,
often too. Like even to this day, they run there, don't they?
WWF.
Yeah,
I
UTC.
mean they go
So
through
that might
there,
have been
but
their building all along.
I mean WCW had Havoc '91 there. So, um, but I don't. I mean, like this isn't a big arena, but I think the setup hurts it, and the crowd heat wasn't good for this show. Like
Right.
this is one of the worst crowd heat shows we've had in WCW. They
Yeah.
they react for NWO and Flair, and not much else. So,
They
I
should
mean,
have
the
tried to
card.
run like North Carolina off a Starrcade.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty good hike. I mean they could have done it, but I think if they could have done Chattanooga, that would have been the move. Otherwise, you could just go to Atlanta. Like I don't know why they
Right.
refused to go there either.
Well, they're going
Um,
soon, aren't they? Isn't that coming?
March 3rd.
Yeah.
That's the last Nitro in the Omni. Um, I mean, maybe you could say like, all right, it's kind of dumb to have Atlanta have a Nitro right after Starrcade. Like, why not just put Starrcade there? But who
I
knows?
mean, I know they weren't really doing this as a thing yet. They probably could have just run Nashville again the next night.
Yeah.
Like that crowd was hot for Starrcade. They probably would have
Or
filled the building
Memphis.
back
They
to
could
back.
have.
Yeah.
They might could have gave Memphis a shot.
Yeah.
Um, there's options. I mean, I think the building just looks weird though. Hurts it
Yeah.
though, because I mean, there's like 5,000 people here. It's not like it's a 2,000 arena.
No, it just the way it's set up and just like you said, the crowd's not there. It just feels weird to come off your biggest show of the year and then like
Right.
almost look small time right away.
Yeah. Yeah. We come back from the break, and so this show on paper, like a few matches look incredible.
Hmm.
Um, they just aren't given time. We can get to that. There's some structure stuff. Like we didn't really need that first match. If you could have taken that first match and
Yes.
gave this match another 3 minutes,
Yep.
great. And this happens a couple of times. So our next match, which I was shocked they had this match. I didn't remember it, but we heard it on Starrcade. These two were facing off on January 4th. Well, we get a
Hmm.
preview here. It's Jushin Liger versus Ultimo Dragon.
Well, and the funny thing is, we talked at Starrcade like that they should have just run this match on that card when we were trying to
Right.
talk about different ways. And we were like, oh, they probably didn't want to front run the
Yeah.
tour, the dome, but here we are
Yeah. I don't know what.
doing it anyway.
I don't. It's very odd. So Ultimo only wears the cruiserweight belt out. He doesn't have the whole J crown.
Hmm.
He starts right away against Liger, some tilt to whirl slam and surfboard by Liger to gain the momentum. Ultimo comes back with a tilt to whirl backbreaker of his own. He does a tope to the outside. Larry lets us know when you make a dive to the outside, you want to make sure there's water in the pool. So, notorious high flyer, Larry Zabisco.
He's got it down. Well, that's why he only does it when the water's there. So
Yeah,
it's not
right.
often.
Yeah, maybe not ever. I would like to see footage of Larry doing a dive to the outside. Ultimo comes off the top rope, gets some boots from Liger, and that kind of bloodies up his mouth.
Hmm.
I look pretty stiff. Liger hits a brain buster. They talk a lot about Sonny Ono and his deal last night at Starrcade, the momentum he had, but also his altercation with Sasuke. They let us know that Sasuke is actually in attendance and wrestling tonight, so they get that out of the way. Ultimo gets the Rana and the Tiger suplex to get the win. This is where I thought the crowd kind of sucked.
Yeah.
Like they weren't really with this match at all. For what it was like a 4 minute just straight sprint. I do recall their 1/4/97 match like being very good. Like these two are interesting. Like they had the J Crown match in August, which is like incredible. And then they never really had another like super match with each other, I don't think. They wrestled a couple times on January 4th. They wrestled January 4th, 93, and then obviously January 4th, 97. But for this, like for a Nitro sprint, I mean, it was fun, pretty violent. Like Ultimo, they show him post match, he's bloodied up in the mouth. And overall, it's a fun sprint, 3 stars. It's always nice to see Liger, so it was cool.
Yeah, I went 3 as well. Um, Maybe they let him run it non nitro because they knew they weren't going to go like all out and give him a lot of time. Maybe that's why they said
Mhm,
no pay per view because you'll mimic too much. But this felt like an appetizer,
mhm,
showcased a little bit for Tokyo Dome. I thought both guys looked great after the shitty opener, especially Dragon's red hot. He's becoming one of the biggest cruiser stars now in WCW. The moves they showed off all were well executed and definitely stood out. On the side. So I went 3 stars as well. And yeah, I wish we had more time. I think your idea of eliminating that opener given the 3 minutes here, would have definitely made this pop even more. But again, it could have been by design. I mean, May New Japan said, or May they said, like, we don't want too much time because we need to keep
Right.
things fresh for the fourth.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with this show, there's 3 matches they could have added time to. There's this one, the minis, and Jericho Benoit. So we
Mhm.
got 3 matches you could cut. Here's another match you could have just cut all the way, where we get a Conan comes out for a strap match. We hear versus Big Bubba. So Big Bubba's music starts up. Which I wanted to ask, they do the like the NWO B team music. I don't think
Yes,
we'd heard that yet.
I was shocked when it came out, way earlier than I thought. Then I'm thinking, like, is this like a Peacock dub? But
That's what
it
I
didn't
was
sound like
wondering.
it. It sounded real. It
Mhm.
sounded like it was there. So I did not remember this. I thought it was more like the spring that this song showed up. Um, because they're not really a B team yet. Like that felt more like later when they have like 6 or 7 guys that are kind of next tier down. But no, they thought so lowly, Bubba. Like we're already giving you your own friggin'
Yeah,
song, and I
yeah,
love the B team theme. I think
mhm.
it's an awesome song.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
cool song.
yeah,
So Bubba doesn't show up.
no,
Uh, out comes Wall Street.
oh God, go away.
Larry lets us know, hey, he's in the NWO now. It's like, thank you, Larry. We knew that
Mm,
3 weeks ago. So
no
thank
one
you for
cares.
keeping us up to date. What tipped it off? The big NWO shirt he was wearing. So Wall Street says he just got off the phone with Bubba and he can't make it. He's not afraid of Conan or the strap, and he'll get his chance to prove it. Then, and one of the dumbest things I've seen in quite a while, Conan just takes this news, says, okay, turns right around, turns his back to Wall Street, raises his arms in the air like he just achieved some great victory. Of course, that allows Wall Street to waylay him, take over. So we have a strap match here. It's Wall Street versus Conan.
Mm.
This goes about like you can imagine.
It's a match out of your friggin' nightmares.
I actually thought Wall Street started out a
Yeah,
little more lively than you would think,
yeah.
where like he uses the strap because I was very scared. This is Wall Street. I was very scared. Like his first move was gonna be like a chin lock and a strap match. And I was just gonna be
With the
done.
strap.
Yeah, I was just gonna be done with it. So he does, do clotheslines and a couple things. Conan gets his rolling clothesline, but then we get just of course, like the lame finish they do with every freaking strap match.
Oh my God, it's so beaten into the ground.
I hate this finish. So it's the same thing where like Wall Street basically has the strap wrapped around Conan's neck in the like hangman position and is dragging him around, hitting the
But
corner.
Conan never touched the first post.
Oh,
He doesn't
we,
touch the first
we
corner,
go
which
to the
that's why I didn't
we
think it was
need to
coming because I'm like, he didn't touch the first one. So I don't know. It's weird.
oh, we need video review.
I didn't. I mean, unless I missed it, he does the second and third.
Yeah,
But then even the last one is like Conan breaks free. To me, the momentum was done. Like
yeah,
it wasn't like he usually is, where he's like dragging him behind and then he flips around. Like he
yeah,
punches him and he falls. Like
yeah.
that's it. But
Yep.
then VK punches him and Conan falls into the fourth. Never touched the first. The momentum was broken. Like it was stupid. It was
Yeah,
so
yeah.
stupid.
VK punches Conan. He like staggers back into the fourth turnbuckle. Bell rings. Uh, I will again give Wall Street a little credit because, like, all right, like we already talked about, like Conan did an asinine dumb move. Like
Right.
Wall Street celebrates. He does go and touch the fourth one,
Yeah.
and then the bell rings. So at least he's like not celebrating when he never touched the fourth one and couldn't have possibly won. But I mean, come on, like you know what's happening. Like it just looks stupid. Crowd's confused or doesn't care at all. It's always lame. So star and a quarter. It was
Just give
stupid.
Conan the win. Like it's friggin' Wall Street. Like he's got to luck into the win.
Well,
Like just have him beat him. Like
I think
whatever. Not every strap match has to be the guy falls into the corner.
no, but I think this is where we're gonna start to see because like it was only the night before where the NWO suffered their first loss, right?
Right.
So how quickly do you want to change that to where they?
But you
I
write it
know it's
off as
Wall
Wall
Street.
Street.
I
It's just
know,
Wall
but
Street.
this is the problem. This is where we get to where we talk about like NWO getting a little bit too diluted, because I do think this is like a perfect example of a boxed in booking where they don't want Wall Street to definitively lose because he's NWO, so you got to protect him some way.
Then have
But he
Conan get
needed
the
to lose
first
the match.
three, and Vincent or whoever runs in, and it's like a DQ, and they beat him up. Like that, like at least that's some. Like this just made it feel like Conan. Just, I mean, he gets dragged, he gets choked, and then
Yeah,
he falls into the corner. I don't know. I just maybe it's just my hate for Wall Street.
yeah,
Um, when Wall Street goes to the top, and he takes forever, and he misses that top rope stomp. Like it is the slowest moving thing ever, ever.
yeah.
Makes Adam Murray look like fucking Usain Bolt, like running around. Um, and then the only thing I liked for VK is when he uh, puts him over on his back and chokes him and like the way he
Mhm.
dragged him. I thought that did look cool. Like he was carrying him like a sack. But VK's washed. He's got no heat. He feels like
Yeah.
a bum foot soldier from the start. The finish is stupid. You know, whatever. We'll wait on the Dungeon Doom blow off. To me, there's only one highlight to this match. I think there was a time
Who do you think of when you hear that music? What's the first person that pops in your head? I can tell you
Norton
mine.
and Bagwell.
Norton is mine for sure.
Yeah.
Scott Norton with that little like
Yep.
when he
Vicious and
looks all
delicious. That's
jacked
what I
up.
think
Yeah,
of. Vicious and
yeah,
delicious.
yeah.
There was a time where I would argue that that was a better theme song than the main. Like I think there's a world where you could argue the original NWO theme, it ranks last of all the NWO themes, because I think you can make an argument for the Wolfpack over the original. I
Oh,
think Voodoo Child, you can have an argument over the original.
I could go with Voodoo
And
Child.
I think this one you can at least have a discussion. It's probably not better, but it's really good for the B team guys. Like it's pretty damn good. So
It's pretty good that they went 4 for 4
I think
on.
them and Triple H and probably Undertaker have the best hit rate for
Yeah,
guys that have like 3+ themes, and they're all great.
yeah. I mean, Triple H is probably the best if you include him being associated with DX and
Well, you got,
Evolution.
and even his original, the
And
piano theme is a pretty good one for like a royal blue blood guy. You know that one. And then you have the Ode to Joy, which is a great song. You got the DX theme, which he does use when he's in DX.
yeah, he's probably in his worst theme right now, actually. I would say Ode to Joy. That's probably
And then
my
he's
least
got the
favorite.
game. He's got the non
My
worded
time.
game.
Mhm.
Then he's got the game. Then he's got uh not the game. I'm sorry. He's got my time. He's got the no words my time. He's got my time. Then he's got the game, King of Kings, Evolution. Like
Yeah, yeah,
they're all
pretty
awesome.
good. For
Anyway,
such
NWO is probably up there. NWO,
right,
Undertaker, and
yes.
Triple H. I think. Let me know if I'm wrong, but I guess Hogan. I mean, if you want to count
Yeah, I mean
against
Hogan has Real American NWO, Eye of the
Voodoo
Tiger,
Child
Voodoo Child.
and the
That's
Hulk Hogan theme that I think he does use at some point, right? The one for the wrestling album.
I mean, even like American Made's not awful. Like it got
Yeah, no,
it gets
Mega Mate's fine.
played, but
Yeah,
yeah, it's fine.
Hogan's up there.
Could be a draft.
There you go.
oh, oh boy. Uh, so I do wonder. I think there's definitely some like scouting on what was going on with the other shows because Raw was live this week. So I do wonder if they kind of abruptly ended this match, which more power to them.
Right.
But Hogan comes out right away. We don't go to break or nothing like that. And I looked at the time; it was like 28, 30 minutes in on Peacock. That was
Mhm.
probably like right around the time Brett and Sean were getting in the ring for the face to
So
face.
they.
I
Yeah.
definitely think I mean I don't know like who decided to like make the first step and
So
say
you think
like
they're trying to get Hogan out there against Brett
yeah,
and
get
Sean?
Hogan out there. So like the quarter hour.
It's
I,
possible that was the plan all along. Was
yeah,
like Conan, that was going to be a filler,
yeah,
and let him go as long as we have to until we want to roll
yep.
Hogan out against
Because it does feel like they went to that finish pretty quickly, where like Wall Street could have hung out in the chin lock with the strap, and then all of a sudden he like lifts him up, and it's like we're going straight to the finish, and then like Conan, the Dungeon of Doom music's playing, and then all of a sudden the NWO theme fires up, and out comes Hogan and Bischoff, and you're like, oh, like
yeah,
wow.
no, you're right. They probably worked on a counter program
a
little bit. That was probably their sleeper match until that hits.
Yep. So out they come, and oh man, what a delusional great heel promo this is. So Bischoff says like that Hogan beat Piper. You know, Hogan knew that when Piper had the guts to show up, he had him. Bischoff is such a swarmy bastard, like through all this, like faking crying, like just annoying. Hogan says, you know, he did show some mercy because he saw Roddy's kid. This is a big thing throughout the night where Roddy's kids, one of his 6 kids, is begging Hogan to take
not beat up his dad.
Yeah. Hogan calls Piper the real coward, said there's nothing under that dress and that you'll never see him again. They say they're going to do a moment of silence, but then say the heck with that. So Hogan then says he would run for president, but he doesn't want to take a cut in pay. So, this I think worked again, like a real good, like delusional Hogan, like acting like he's
and they believe it, you know.
Yeah. It really felt like, all right, this is what you would see from like 2 guys that are just in complete denial.
Yeah.
And it worked to help.
Look, it's not a lie if you believe it. Is like where they're at with this. Like,
yeah.
Larry even says, like, does he have Alzheimer's? Because he's like, you know, talking up like they won. No, that was great. I mean, Hogan and Bischoff is a pairing great because Bischoff is so hateable and smarmy, and just Hogan is so grandiose and just like you said, delusional. Hogan does hype up his cool Hollywood Rules shirt, so he's trying to pimp that, probably trying to get the sales up on that. Bischoff has a good line. He says, "Piper was like Haley's comment. He came, got beaten, is gone." Just funny. Hogan says Piper came in for 1 shot. He lost, but he made a lot of scratch on my coattails. And Hogan says he lost a lot of respect for that coward. Nothing happened under the dress. So just delusional Hogan. You know, they try to bait Piper in to get a win back on him.
Yes.
Like, are they just talking himself up to make him feel better? So, like, there's some different ways they can go with this.
Right. As they leave, Tony does let us know that we have a response they're going to share with us. So that's kind of a hook for the rest of the show. Then we get just a wild match on paper. It's Hugh Morris versus Kensei Sake. Kensei Sasaki is what they pronounce it as the whole night. So Tony and Larry again are just appalled that Hogan and Bischoff claimed victory when it was recorded. Sonny Ono does come out with Sasaki. We actually got a plethora. I think we got the holy trinity of all the generic Japanese music. Because we get Ultimo, we have Liger, and now we got Sasaki. 3 different Japanese theme songs. So they really ran the gauntlet of everything. Tony lets us know that they're trying to get video to prove that Piper won. He also lets us know that Sasaki is known as Hellcat in Japan. So power moves with these guys. Morse does a charge in the corner. As this happens, Eric Bischoff invades the booth. He has the master tape. He's over the crowd with the live mic, so he lets us know that, you know, they aren't showing anything. Possession's 9/10 of the law, and that's that. He runs off with like the master tape. Larry is just annoyed. Like Tony says, well, we still have some stills. Larry asks if they got a beta tape for it. So he's back in the 80s. Laser disc. We need Tony Soprano to get some laser discs for us, maybe to fire it up. So while all this is going on, we have the match. It's okay. Big clothesline by Sasaki gets 2, power slam. He does his rolling arm throw that looks pretty good. Crowd again doesn't care. Like they are very anti Japanese and Mexican competitors on this night. He does miss the elbow from the top, and Hugh Morris hits the slam and the no laughing matter. He goes for the pin. Sonny Ono rolls into the ring, nails Hugh Morris with the flag, drawing a lane DQ, and then like Hugh Morris tries to get his hands on Sonny Ono, but he like escapes with his jacket. Where was Jimmy Hart through all this? Like,
Yeah,
why
yeah,
did he
missing in
decide he
action.
doesn't care to come out? So all this seemed like a waste of Sasaki. 2 stars, it was okay. Really, this match was more about like, you know, Bischoff still in the master tape, though. That was your main
Yeah,
takeaway for the match.
no, definitely. And a big international flavor. I think it's cool that a lot of these guys are there for Starrcade, and they just kind of held them over and had them work the next night.
Yeah.
Um, got some pretty good big boy banging early, which is always entertaining. A lot of talk about the issues between Sasaki and Ono because of Ono cheating the night before to help Akira Hokuto win her match. Larry goes on a rant about coffee costing $3 a cup in Japan. He's not happy about that,
Got
and
some
he
news for you there.
lets us know it. And then we get the holding of the tape, and then the finish. After Hugh runs off Ono, he says, "Dungeon of Doom, 1997." So we're ready. Big year for the dungeon coming for Hugh Morris.
I
And
was,
mhm,
yeah, I was wondering. I wanted to check, and I believe so. This is our one and only time we'll see Sasuke on WCW program.
for this project, well, we didn't see him before when he was like, I guess that was that before Nitro started when he was U.S. champion
Yeah,
and all that.
so he did like a really wild run on. He has a match on Worldwide where he actually faced the Giant on WCW Worldwide. Has a match on WCW Pro. Has a match on
That's
WCW
this during this
Prime.
run.
That's the Prime match. It says was January 1st, and then there was a May 2nd taping and June
Well,
tape.
Hokuto was here for a while, so he must just kind of come and go with her,
Yeah.
maybe.
And then, he was on Starrcade in World War III.
Yeah, as I say, when was he? When was his U.S. title run? That was Nitro
That
was
was,
happening then, right? We just
yeah,
didn't. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
okay.
This is it for him. That's what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah.
He was only on one Nitro before, though, him versus
Right.
Benoit. So it's weird. Like, he was a United States champion, and he was
That was
only
such a
on,
weird one man gang, Conan, that
yeah.
whole odd thing. Um. Anyway, I thought this was a pretty surprising finish. It was wonky, but Morris basically had the clean win before the
Yeah.
DQ, which was surprising. So I went 2.5. Like I didn't mind the big boys whacking each other around, but um, whatever. Like you said, the whole point was that Bischoff's got the tape.
So they show stills of Piper having his hand raised. He has his foot on top of Hogan, who's laid out on the mat. So we do get the stills of it, just no video footage. WCW Saturday night, our lineup: Eddie Guerrero versus Dean Malenko for the U.S. Heavyweight title. Masahiro Chono, Arn Anderson, Lex Luger are all in action, and then for the TV title, Lord Steven Regal versus Ice Train.
Pretty good
So
little Saturday
not
night.
bad, not bad.
I was
To
most likely tuned in on this one, I would say.
start the new year.
Yeah.
That was January 4th. That's the real January 4th show. Was WWE Saturday night. Tag match, another tag match: Harlem Heat versus the Faces of Fear. Stevie and Mean kind of start firing away. Tony lets us know he's been dictated that they must talk about Sold Out, so he gives kind of the shield for that. Cedar Rapids, the date, all that stuff. Booker's in. He climbs up top, but Barbarian catches him, hits him with a huge belly to belly. That looked good. And then, like, I thought this angle was dead, but it's still hanging
Never
out.
ending. It's a year old because the wedding was at the January Clash, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, and it was going before then. So, like, we're well over a year into sensational or sensuous Sherry, whatever she is here, Queen Sister Sherry.
She's like in
And
her wrestling gear
yeah,
on
I
this
don't.
show. I didn't know what that was about either.
Yeah,
This is almost scary Sherry gear here. So Parker comes out. He smacks Sherry on the ass with like his what do you know what the official
it's like a
name is?
riding
Yeah,
crop.
it's your what they hit the horses with, but
Yeah,
um so while all this is going on, like Sherry, flips out at that, of course. Uh Meanwhile in the ring, Stevie hits a power slam, but the amazing French Canadians are out. Jacques Rougeau, I- they say he threw salt in the beginning. Then they say
Right.
maybe it was a powder.
Yeah.
What was this? Because it screws up the ring for the rest of the night.
It's like black powder, but I was wondering if it was supposed to be like gunpowder because like Parker's kind of got like the Legionnaires suit on or whatever. Like if it's supposed to be like
Okay.
old school gunpowder, because it is. It's like a thick black powder they
Yeah.
throw at Stevie's eyes.
Yeah, and totally ruins the mat. So now Stevie has that. He gets the kick of fear from Mean, who covers him. So I'm like, okay, well, that's a shoddy finish, but Faces of Fear win. No, Booker comes off the top rope on top of
Yep.
Mean. Stevie, blinded, kind of puts half an arm on him and gets the cover. So
Hmm.
I thought that was an interesting finish because we just saw the Faces of Fear
Right.
be pretty, take it to the outsiders.
And they talked that up too. Like Tony's all over it during this match. How great their outing was the night before.
And so I was very confused that they just lose right here, especially when they ended up having help. So it's like
Yeah.
almost double bad. Match itself was a solid power matchup for what it was, but enough of Parker and Sherry. Like
Yeah,
that was
it's gonna go. Talk about
way
feeling
bad.
dated and washed and just not of this world. The French Canadians, Parker and Sherry, should just be put him on Saturday Night with Dusty and let him laugh it up, right? Like that's just where this all should be. Like, and just not here
Yeah.
where it's like on the big show. But yeah, a lot of hype on that. I think it's interesting. I like that Tony says they're going to talk about Sold Out because WCW is going to be involved on the
Mhm.
show, so we're going to hype it. And then he does say we're going to find out some sold out matches on Saturday night. So they're still using Saturday night for some decent sized stuff in here. I thought it was a fine early. The again the finish was messy, like you said. Maybe we'll get some kind of feud, I guess, with French Canadians and Harlan Heat. I don't know,
Yeah.
but fine, and then kind of shit the bed. So 2.5 for me.
I did 2.5 as well. Uh, Gene gives an interview with Diamond Dallas Page. Gene lets us know, hey, you've declined the NWO. He brings up last night and them beating him up. Page says, don't worry about it. Gene says, well, it's not just him. Everybody's
Right.
wondering about this. Page says he isn't crying. He's a fixer and he will move on. Gene presses him on what he means by being a fixer. Dallas says people say he's kind of thick headed and stubborn. He doesn't get it right away. But when you get dropped on your head, you do get it. Page says that the NWO is too strong right now. He knows what he's got to do and what's going to happen. And Gene says, well, what are you going to do? And Page just says the NWO
Don't worry
and kind of
about it.
walks away. Yeah. So I like this, though. I
Hmm.
thought this was cool to set up like what happens in the future because like
Yeah.
this to me is actually what um this to me is like a smarter version of what's going on with Sting,
Hmm.
where on commentary you could make a leap here
Right.
that he is becoming the NWO. Like he's not it I mean he is doing some misdirection on purpose. And it makes sense like with what he's saying, like it doesn't take that much of a leap of faith to say like all right, like all right, he's NWO. So I like the way this was done. I actually thought Gene was good in this
Yeah.
role.
He wasn't
Um,
over the top with pushing him, with his
yeah,
usual
yeah,
kind of ranting and raving and yelling and like forcing. He just kind of was
or
trying to lead him
making
to it.
making too much assumptions too. Like we've
Right.
seen that with Gene, where he's like,
Yeah.
like obviously, like your friend, even at the
Yeah.
beginning
Yeah.
of this, he was like, you're friends with these guys, like your neighbors with him. It's like, well, I don't know, okay,
Yeah, no, I think it's good for Paige. It really felt like they were in a holding pattern with him to just get through Starrcade before wanting to ramp up his piece.
yep.
So it felt like they had good momentum going with the NWO teases, and then it kind of went dark for like a few weeks, and then they ramped it back up going into Starrcade. So it feels like they just had those markers in the ground they wanted to get to, and now they're going to start to push Paige into being looking like he may try to outsmart them now or end up joining them.
All right, we start off hour two. Uh, Not a lot of like pomp and circumstance or
No.
pyro for this. We kind of just go to the booth.
Hmm.
Tanay says that one constant has remained the same, and that's that Hulk Hogan has not beaten Roddy Piper. Turn to Bobby. Bobby says there's a lot of friction at the NWO. Hogan's a pathological liar. When a liar runs the group, there's nothing but trouble, which I thought was funny, like considering being the Heenan
Mm-hmm.
family. And then he takes a complete 180 turn. He says, "Hey, we got the midgets coming in later. They all weigh 280 pounds combined, not just one guy. All of them together are 280 pounds." So he's excited about that. AWA and where Bobby started out, they did use a lot of midget wrestling, Skyline Low and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe he's fond of the,
Excited about it.
yeah, he was pumped for it.
Well, he was in, MSG ran the little guys for a while in the 80s, and he
Mhm.
was there too. So,
Yeah,
yeah, he's
yeah.
always been around it.
So then we get clips of the stuff before. Tony announces though that Piper is here. He's in the building, so they get that out of the way too. Right at hour 2, and of course Bobby wants to bail right away from the announce booth. He says we should leave, so he's ready to go. Our first match. Another great match on paper. Probably another one we probably didn't have to see. Disco Inferno versus Glacier. Tony calls Starrcade the greatest pay per view he's ever been associated with. Disco does a little mic work. It results in him being insulted by the end, says he's mad now. Um, I couldn't keep my eyes off the black powder all over the ring.
No,
It's
just
like all
completely
over
covered.
his
Yeah.
back. It's awful. So this is a Glacier squash, as you might imagine. Arm drags by Glacier. Bobby gives a little like Italian flair to this with Disco Inferno talking about his uncles. Says he had a new submission move that he tied up his uncles with, Enzo and Louis. So he lets us know about that. Um, then Tanay really goes off on Glacier's family. So we learned last week that the brother and father were involved as state troopers or whatnot. Glacier's mother is also involved in law enforcement. Bobby has a pretty good joke asking if that was San Quentin or, The Rock at Alcatraz. And Glacier's just dominating. Gut wrench slam, has a ton of confidence. He goes for the cryonic kick. Disco puts referee Scott Dickerson in front of him. Disco then gets a clothesline, stomps away. He tries to go for his new leg hold, his new submission, but puts it on the wrong foot. uh, a nasty kick from Glacier, but he puts his head down. Disco hits a good swinging
Yeah,
neck
that was a
breaker,
surprise.
which was pretty shocking. Instead of following up on it, though, he goes to the second rope, starts dancing. When he turns around, he gets absolutely blasted with a super kick that looked violent and good, and Glacier wins. So I, I don't know. Maybe I'm a Glacier Bark. Like these are not good squad. I don't know what to say. Like he's not getting the reaction they'd hoped. But actually don't think the squash matches themselves are that bad. Like his kick here looked violent. Disco is, comedy fodder, but some of the stuff he
I mean,
did,
real
like,
comedy. They're basically saying he's like a shitty wrestler, or like not even
yeah, like
hiding
he
from it. I mean, that's
forgot how to do
well, he
his
says
new
even before the
move.
match when he grabbed the mic, he's like, "I've been practicing my leg hold for
Yeah,
weeks,
yeah,
so you should just leave." And he calls
yeah,
Glacier dumber than Peyton Manning, and
yeah.
he says Tennessee's going to get embarrassed by Northwestern. Did that happen, Chad?
Yes.
They did.
No,
Oh, I
I
was going to
need to
say,
look it up. I'm guessing Tennessee won.
yeah,
I'll look that up while you talk about the match. I went a star and a half.
because this would have been Manning's senior year, right, or
Yeah,
junior, whatever year he came out.
he'd have been a
Junior.
he did one more year after this. 98's when they win the national
That's right.
championship
Yeah, yeah.
with T. Martin, so he was like a sophomore probably here. They beat Northwestern 48-28.
There you go.
They have I mean this they honestly probably should. This is one of those years where like you look back at it and they probably were kicking themselves. I mean, here's the problem. Like this is 96 is it's almost like what Tennessee had this year, right? Like they were a dominant team, but they're in the SEC East. They lost to
Mhm.
Georgia. So if you lose that matchup, it's very tough. You're not going to be in the SEC championship. That's what happened to Tennessee here. They lost to Tennessee, or I'm sorry, Tennessee lost to Florida at home 29-35. Probably a great game. Um, but then they had a hiccup versus Memphis, which you can't lose that.
Mhm.
But even if they'd have lost to Florida, and that was their only loss, they wouldn't have been in the national championship contention, which is just crazy how college football used to be because Florida lost the regular season game to Florida State. Florida State beat Florida in the regular season. Then they matched up again in the Sugar Bowl. Florida killed them, and Florida's your '96 national champion. So that's college football with Chad. But yeah, they did not. Northwestern did not kill Tennessee.
Yeah, I don't know. It was honestly, I feel like as a kid, I might have gotten more into college football. Like obviously I was already predestined not to like have a team just where I lived and didn't go to a college. I had a major program. So like it was already two things against me. But I think the fact that it was so convoluted and how the champion was determined prevented me from ever really like buying in as well because I remember just being frustrated, like confused, like watching some of those mid '90s and be like, I don't get it. Like they're just picking champions. Like it just seemed weird as a kid. So
Um,
I think that I wonder how many kids like me just got turned off by like them not having like especially March Madness in your face. Was so awesome. And then like, okay, well, basketball's cool because here's 64 teams. It's easy to follow. Whereas then college football is like just complex as a kid to pay attention to in an area where it wasn't life. You know what I mean? Well, it wasn't. It wasn't a big deal.
oh my god, simple. Don't lose in the regular season. That's what you had to do.
All right.
The regular season matters.
Were you into hockey as a kid?
Yeah,
What if they
I
didn't
really
have
was.
you didn't have a team down there? What if they just had like a whatever? There's no real playoff.
You
they had
wanna?
6 games at the end of the season and picked one randomly to be the champion.
Yeah,
And you didn't
but
grow up
it's
as like a
so.
diehard
I mean,
fan of a
it's so
team.
different though, because like I mean, in football, you knew. I mean, regional helped, of course. It's just so tough, but
It's
like,
hard, but you can't resonate because it was your life. Like it's the life down there. It's ingrained in your society where it's just not up here.
well, for me, it was easy as a kid though with college football because it was like you had really like 6 games you had to worry about. And if you lost one, like you knew you weren't probably going to be the champion. Like this is a very rare occurrence in '96 where they get an immediate rematch. Like that's stupid. And then the next year they have the co-champion. So these are 2 bad years. And that was the precipice for the BCS. Like, they started like after that they were like, all right, we got to do something where we have the BCS. The BCS gets more convoluted with the computer crap, but pretty much they got it right, I would say,
Well, that
more
at least
so
made
than not.
sense to me because it was like, okay, we had standings. We knew the two top teams would play. Like
Right.
there was something there. Before that, it just seemed so arbitrary. It was just kind of like the
Yeah,
committee
before it
thinks,
depended what bowl, like the bowls, I mean the bowls themselves were very locked in that like your Rose Bowl was always going to be Pac-10 champion versus Big 10 champion.
right.
So you weren't going to have like Tennessee this year. Hey, let's go out to the Rose Bowl and play Michigan, and then we'll see what happens. Like this wasn't going
Yeah,
to
why
happen.
have the best teams play? I mean, it seems stupid, right?
Well, no, I don't think anybody argues that. I mean, the college football playoff changes it, but you're never. I don't know of many people that even like diehard college football. I mean, like the bowl seasons, whatever. Like
Yeah.
it's what it is. It's the best regular season with the worst postseason, except for the championship.
Anyway, Glacier, it's going nowhere slow. 1 star.
Yeah, we'll have to get to my hockey origin story. I don't know
That could be the
hockey.
open episode of
No,
Southern Pucks or whatever.
Southern
So
Puck. Hockey's just so weird. My dad was like, I talked to Aaron about this. Like, my dad was so into hockey for like a few years, and then I don't know what happened, like, or whether he was just like riding the Gretzky wave, and then he just stopped, and then I pretty much just like stopped with him. So like
yeah,
from
I
90.
think it's tough. It's tough if you don't have that local team. Like that's always been my problem with something like college football, where like you just don't have that local team to grasp onto. It's hard to like. I mean, people do it all the time. You pick a team as a kid, and you kind of stay with it, but um, it's hard when it's like they're not there, especially in the '90s. When nowadays, I think as a kid, you could be into anyone, you could see every game at any time, anywhere. But like then it was like I grew up as a Hornets fan in the '90s. Like they weren't on a lot, so I was like studying box scores every morning in the newspaper. Like, and you had to be pretty into a team to like really want to buy into that level at that point because it wasn't easily
Yeah.
accessible. Trolling Sports Center, hoping for a 2-minute highlight of your team, and then just reading the box scores pretty much, and hope maybe they get a TNT game one night.
Yeah, I mean those things they stay with you. I think for sports, I mean NFL was the toughest sport for me to ever get into. I mean I came on later in the NFL than any. Like in '96, I was definitely not like living and dying on the Falcons at all. Like they were
I feel like baseball is going to be the
way
entry sport for most
way
people, right?
below. Maybe for people our age, but I don't know
That's what I mean.
now.
Like, yeah, for us growing up, I feel like baseball was like the entry. Like, I feel like that was I knew of baseball and was watching baseball way earlier than like really focusing on anything else for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's still like Caden definitely likes baseball more, but who
Maybe because
knows?
it's on every
I don't
day,
know.
like maybe that helped. And it's summer, you're off. You can kind of.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I know for NFL, the main thing for me, like the toughest thing, was like we had Sunday dinner after church with my grandparents, so it's still like like we may not get home till 2:30, so you're already missing some of it. So there it was. All right.
Is this sports corner?
Yeah. They do talk about like Glacier still being undefeated, and
Hmm.
Bobby got a pretty good one-liner where Tony says, Glacier's undefeated. Not many people in the wrestling business can say that, and Bobby says, "Yep, not Hulk Hogan," and they like absolutely pop for that. Outsider shirt shield that we've seen a few weeks in a row now.
A
Uh,
million for $20 million.
yeah. So still, Benoit versus Jericho is our next match. Another great match on paper. Rematch from Fall Brawl. We get some stills of Benoit versus Jarrett from last night. Tanay says that once again, Woman's presence at ringside provided a distraction.
Hmm.
Woman is with Benoit again tonight. She comes out in like her black and red outfit with the jacket that Bobby was like.
He is hooting and hollering about that
He
outfit.
is,
He
he
is
is, he
all
is
in.
ready.
Yeah.
It's Vince when Sonny comes out levels
Or
of
Savio Vega.
right. Some very quick action to start. A quick thing, another detour. Oh well, we got Savio on the other show.
Yeah, we'll talk about him there.
Okay. Springboard drop kick. Another missile drop kick to the floor from Jericho, which looked really cool, like a very like steep angle.
Hmm.
Looked really good. So this is again, it's like a 3-minute match. Like give it more time, but it's very violent, very intense for what we see. Big chops from Jericho. Benoit catches him and stun guns him on the top rope. Jericho kind of slips out for a flash pin, but Benoit chops him back down. Jericho gets a super kick. He goes for the line salt but misses. He's on the apron and goes to the top and is able to hit a splash. He goes for a kick kind of in the corner but gets tied up in the turnbuckle, and Benoit hits a belly to back from the top rope that gets the win. So a 3-minute just violent, sprinty, fun matchup. With these guys, I went 3 stars again. This is kind of in the same mold as Liger Ultimo for me.
Yeah, same thing. I think you hit all the high spots. It was a good, hard hitting battle, shorter than you want. I mean, that's what it comes down to. It's
Yeah,
vicious and fun. Jericho needs a good feud. Like he really
yeah,
hasn't had one since debuting. Like he had the Nick Patrick stuff,
yeah.
and
That's
beyond that,
been,
he hasn't really had much else going on.
mhm.
So
And
he could definitely use
that's
something.
done. I mean, for
Yeah.
sure. That's the one thing we'll say with like Patrick, like between Jericho and the Teddy Long thing. Like it
Mhm.
seems like both of those are for sure done. So.
Yeah, it seems like they really pushed the Patrick stuff more on Saturday night, still with the mask and all that. Like,
Mhm.
seems like that's kind of where they're focusing on him. But um, yeah, I'd like to see Jericho with something of substance. Benoit's angrier than ever to this point.
Mhm.
He's wrestling with a lot of wild aggression in the ring, and you can tell he's just pissed about what's going on inside the Horsemen, and he's trying to prove a point. Everyone's talking shit on him, and he's gotten soft, and he's off with woman who God knows where he is. But when we see him, he's just like wrecking house in the ring. So I went 3 stars as well, and it's again to your point. If we got more of this and more of Liger and Dragon, like we're talking a completely different show.
Big interview with the Horseman here,
Hmm.
Gene. Flair's wearing a Florida Gator gear, which is just an ultimate
He
like
had
dude.
it already. Didn't have it like a couple weeks ago. He's like still with this windbreaker. I feel like he's had this a
Yeah.
couple of
Well,
times.
he's like, Flair can switch teams, but the
Front
ones I
running
would
Flair.
say, I'd say the ones he's most consistent with is the Lakers and then Florida. He's always like Florida. Deborah says she's glad to see Woman. She was talking about how much she missed her just last night. Woman says, "Why don't you two keep your mouth shut? You haven't been here long enough to like have a say over anything and
By the
whatever."
way, I
So
just want to call it.
Mongo's
Mongo's got the full Canadian tuxedo on this night, so it was exciting.
yes. And Mongo's very revved up at this. He says,
Hmm.
"Listen, Toots, it'll be the day when a skirt like you tells me what to do." So, like him and Benoit are, going at it or whatever. And out comes Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett has a good, point where he says, like, when he first come in, Flair said he was the man who could lead the Horsemen, even unite WCW. But, what about Arn Anderson? What he did last night. And then
Hmm.
Woman says, "Hey, wait a minute, where is Arn Anderson?" And Flair, of course, is like, "Now I can communicate." So he lets us know Arn's at the Hyatt with a Miller Lite in his hand, light up the cameras, turn down the lights, and then he grabs Woman and dances down the aisle with her. She's legitimately cracking up at all this. Um, Benoit tries to kind of center everything back together by saying that last night Jarrett proved he could be anything he wanted except a horseman. So he walks off to a big ooh, kind of a mic drop moment there for him. Deborah says she's figured out why Woman's upset. It's just over her weight gain over the holidays.
She's just built up some hostility due to weight gain.
This is and that Mongo could handle that little boy any day talking about Benoit. And then Flair lets us end out by saying that the Horsemen are staying all night and a little longer, and he basically just wants to party, which we saw in the previous promo. Very funny quick line where Gene says we're closing out
Yeah,
1997, and Bobby says he just lost a year.
yeah, that was funny.
So I mean, this is like three promos happening at once. Like
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know
chaos.
what's going on. Like you got the Woman Mongo tension, you got Benoit with that, but also like still with Jarrett. You heard nothing about Sullivan this week. Then you have Flair. I don't know what he's like. He's basically just like,
He's become like Jerry Seinfeld of the group. He's just like cracking jokes. Like
yeah, like it,
you
I
got like
think you're
Kramer and George arguing. Elaine's in there, and like Jerry, like he's just like, oh, it's just dance. Like he's just like not even talking about what's happening. He's just like observing about like partying. It was
yeah,
really
yeah.
really weird.
This is I think definitely the weirdest stretch we've seen with Flair. Like
Hmm.
because I mean I get it, like he's still a while from coming back, but like and maybe like they're trying to say like he's just being nonchalant, trying to keep everything together, and he's not like realizing how much friction's going. But I mean it's not coming off great because he's just like grabbing Woman, grabbing Deborah, dancing around with them, saying they're getting plastered at the hotel. Um, I don't know. This
Yeah.
was this was kind of I mean this is like we said last time, like it's entertaining just because of who it is, but when you start to like break it down, it's a mess. It's a mess overall.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, it's funny, like now, like look. Oh yeah, and it's some funny stuff, whatever. But like as what they're trying to get across, I don't know what it is. Like it's just
Yeah.
there's drama. Parts of it are funny. It's kind of weird. Like I don't think they're getting across. They're trying to get across in any way.
No.
I think it's best at this point if they just like wrap the Horsemen, probably, and
Yeah.
just kind of go do their own things, or bring some focus to it. Like I don't know, because they don't even talk a lot about like if the point is like, oh, if the Horsemen could get their shit together, they could be a threat to the NWO, but they can't stop fighting. they don't even present it that way. Like you know what I mean? Like that could be a thing, right? Like we have this elite force sitting here that could be our top guns, but one's hurt and the rest can't get along. So what's going on? But they don't talk about it like that. Like they have the women stuff with Deborah. Like you said, Jarrett now shows back up. He hasn't really been involved in a few weeks. Now he's trying to get involved again. Arn's not even there. He's drinking beers at the Hyatt. Like I don't know, just the whole thing is just kind of weird. And like Flair is just like aloof about all of it. So I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see where it goes, but
Did like Mongo saying toots.
yeah,
Listen,
he lives
listen
perpetually in
to it.
1957 manga.
Oh boy. So now time for the big meanies.
No, first we got the road report.
Oh,
Lee Marshall, he's at Sputnik's in Monroe, Louisiana. He hypes up next week's show. He says the chef at Sputnik's is making a crawfish and weasel dish. So there you go.
there we go. Masquerita Sagrada Atacancito Pirita Morgan and
Jerry Estrada.
yeah, well, it's Jerry
I know.
Estrada's mini Jerrito Estrada. Tanae brings up the When Worlds Collide pay per view and how that made their U.S. debut for most of them. I need to look up Jerrito Estrada. I'm sure he lost one of these matches that like uh Schneider talks about, where like a couple times they'll have a mini match where like the winner is no longer a mini, which is
Oh,
funny. It's almost like the winner gets to become a real boy, like a Pinocchio type match.
it's like soccer. You get bumped up to the top division.
It's a very very odd stipulation. Like Virus, a great wrestler that shows up a few times on tape, but just a great like technical wrestler. He was at one point a mini, and then he won one of those matches, and now he's a big boy.
Well, I did
Uh,
like how today says like at first the Luchasaurus hated that they aped their names, but then it became like
mhm,
an honor afterward. So
right. So he does also let us know Estrada's 5 feet tall, which is the
it's the
limit for
max.
mini.
Yes.
No,
Yep.
he's at the height restriction. Uh, I mean, so for all the hype of this, they get two and a half minutes. Like it's
Bobby does say it's like a riot at a daycare center.
yes. Um, and then at the end he says we'll be back after a short break. So I mean, back and forth action. Sagrada gets the pin. Like the moves are fun, and I think this was good in showing that.
Right.
Like if you're used to the Lord Littlebrook, Little Beaver ilk of the mini wrestlers, this is less comedy, and they can perform some great like
Mhm.
high flying moves and really move around. It's chaotic, but it was so brief. It was like, well, you couldn't get a sense of much of anything. So I gave him a 2 star and just moved on. But I thought it was kind of crazy how much they mentioned it throughout the show, and then they only get 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, I went 2 stars. Well, it's just kind of a gentleman's two, but um, yeah, I mean WWF obviously gets a hard on from seeing this because like a lot of stuff during this era, they bring them in not long after this. I think it's in '97 that they start to use them a bunch, and
Yeah.
they become a staple. Like they run them out a lot of times, so they have a few minutes to kill or whatever over the next couple of years. Like they're on TV, they're on pay per view, like a bunch of times. Like they just kind of fill spots. I don't think they're at the Rumble already, but I feel like they show up kind of soon in WWF. Like it's not long after this. They may be one at the Rumble, '97 Rumble. But I know they show up sooner than later. Maybe it's '98. There's one in there that they show up at.
98 Rumble, they have a
Yeah,
mini match. Yep.
and then they're in like when Super Astro starts. I think they
Super
use them there a
Astros
bunch.
is a
Yeah,
big thing for them.
so it becomes like a thing that they take from WCW and kind of run with for a while. Like we'll see them for sure a bunch on Raw '97 and on pay per view. I know infamously they use them to fill time when Pillman dies on Bad Blood.
Oh,
That's like the fill in match. They run the
mhm.
minis out there. So
Now we get probably one of our marquee matchups
yeah,
in 1996 WCW Rey Mysterio versus Dean Malenko. Come back from break, they're both in the ring, so this kind of happens pretty cold. Um, so their typical good match here. We went through it like they've had some classics, but this is the same thing where you get some good like progressive, more intensity
hmm
throughout the match. Some good mat work. I thought Dean catching Ray on top and punching him, and then sending him stomach first in the apron was really well done. hits the gut buster after that, and then a suplex and a half crab. And then Ray's just doing some really neat, like high flying offense to turn the momentum, where he runs up the ropes and hits a drop kick. And so you get that. You get like the spectacular moves of Ray versus the ground and pound of Dean, for lack of a better term. So like Dean does a butterfly suplex, some pin reversals that goes on. Ray kind of tries to settle himself on the top rope, loses his footing, crushes himself. Um, Flip up but Ray, but Dean slams him down again, showing he has the power advantage. Then Ray opens it up where he hits a huge dive on the outside, which sets up a very exciting kind of finishing stretch here where they're bridging, flipping, tons of pinfall reversals. Kind of ending where this match, a lot of times the match ends in a 10-minute draw. A lot of times
Yep.
when that happens, the matches are when one person's about to get the victory, the 2 count and the bell rings, blah, blah, blah. I like that this kind of ended in a stalemate. Like
Yeah, that is
either
going.
one was still kind of really had a huge advantage. Tanay talks about how like this reflects how the rivalry has been. Like it's been a very even rivalry. So this might be the lowest I've ranked a match we've seen of theirs, but I still thought it was very good. Still probably gonna be like a hidden classic for us. I would say for me, I went 3.25. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like the other match we talked about tonight, right? Like Liger Dragon, Jericho Benoit. Now this could have been a star-studded show if these matches lop up some of the crap and give all that time to these matches and let them really go. This one feels like it maybe got the most of all those,
Mhm.
but I thought Bobby was good too. I said about Dean's desperation, losing last night, wanted to come back with a win
Yep.
here tonight. I thought the finish was dumb. Like, all right, fine, time limit draw, but it's not teased or set up at all. Like, it just comes out of nowhere. They didn't say it was a time limit match. It's not really been established on Nitro. It's a time limit match. It's not a TV title match. So it's like why all of a sudden is there 10 minutes? Like no other match has gone 10 minutes. Like it just felt weird. Like it wasn't really hyped as such. That would make you think this was even possible. So I didn't care for the finish, but I like them. Like it's not as hot or intense as usual, but it's got some of their best hits. The crowd, you mentioned it, fuck them. I mean, they were asleep even through this. But whatever, they were on point. They have natural chemistry. The crowd didn't care, but it still was great. I went 3.5. So I mean, for the stuff I'm bitching about, I still liked it a lot. I just thought they could have had a better finish or set up for some reason why there's a time limit. Like we just never have a 10-minute time limit on Nitro. Now there is one in this one match. And again, the
Yeah,
crowd
the other
didn't
one
care
was a
about that,
TV title match.
which is fine. Like we know that's canon. Like TV title on TV is 10 minutes. Like that's WCW lore. But why is this match suddenly a 10-minute time limit? It's never a thing that we hear about.
Yeah.
So it just felt forced.
All
Like
right.
just do a double count out. Have Ray hit a big plancha and they can't beat the count in, or they brawl down the aisle. Like whatever.
Yeah. I always feel like I'm more forgiving on time limits than most people. I
It's
don't know
fine if it's
why.
established. This just wasn't established. It's just like we never have draws on Nitro unless it's a TV title match. Now all of a sudden this match is 10 minutes.
I kind of like cold time limit draws. I don't know. I understand that it's not
Is any
very.
other match on the show over 10 minutes, or are they all under? I guess.
No, not this show. This show
Yeah,
was
but
like.
other Nitros have matches that are
Oh
under 10
yeah, I
minutes.
mean, like I'm sure, like we've had some Benoit,
Just give me some level
Dragon
of
matches.
establishment. It could have been weeks ago. I don't care. Like they could have said, "Hey, starting now, we're gonna have 10 minutes." Like, give me something, whatever. It just felt like out of nowhere. Like we didn't know.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
need a clock. I don't need it to count me in. Just tell me up front it's a 10-minute time limit. Unless the
right.
announcer said it, but we didn't get intro, so I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't. The announcer for sure didn't say it.
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
give me that even. Just let him say it.
ready for our main event?
Yes.
Lex Luger versus Greg Valentine.
With the Hollywood Blondes theme.
Yes. Who didn't do that coming out. Yeah. Um. So I mean, Hammer, bless him, pretty washed. He starts pounding away. This was mainly just to like build up Luger. They
Mhm.
again talk about his win last night. Brain confirms Nick Patrick's in the NWO, so we get that. Luger kind of pounds away, gets sent to the outside on a running charge. Hammer gives him a couple forearms, a knee to the back, and then Luger slips in the ring immediately, puts on the torture rack, and wins it in 2 minutes. Complete squash here. Win a star.
Yeah, me too.
Interesting matchup. This is like one of those that, like, I wonder what year this match would have been the best. Because, like, right
88.
when Valentine starts tapering off,
Mm.
I was thinking maybe 89, because that's like Luger's great year, and Hammer still was cranking it out with Garvin.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think like 88, 89, this could have been like legitimately great if they were given time. But you know,
It's all right. Yeah, 1 star. I mean, Luger's full of energy. I would say like, oh, why do we need this? But I think this is the one of the squashes we did need to put over Lex from last night. We got to see him.
yeah,
But this again could have been earlier in the night. You could have run other stuff out there and had Dean Ray be your closer and just
yeah,
cut the French Canadians, cut Conan. Like, there's a few things we could have cut and added some time elsewhere and just made this show feel a little bit more meaty.
right. Main event segment here with the
It's a big one.
interview.
Yeah.
Piper comes out there. Heroes welcome. The crowd's finally alive here. Roddy says, "Thank you. These are the greatest fans in the world." Says there must be life on Mars because he heard a claim that Hogan won, and all that can't be true because all Piper did was, or all Piper heard Hogan do last night was does the snoring thing that he was out. He Piper declares he is the icon. He says he's been the Braveheart. Talking about his kilt, he's worn the kilt since he was 5 years old. You either have to be tough to stupid to do that, and it's kind of tough to distinguish sometimes with him. But then he says, this was my last fight. He's getting too old for this. He has says it was very important for him to have this fight for his pride. Right as he's talking about this, the NWO music starts up. Out comes Bischoff and Hogan, them two only to start out.
Bobby wants out.
Yep, see ya immediately. It drives me crazy every time he says that. Hogan has a huge like scowl on his face. He looks very angry. Piper lays down on the mat, showing how Hogan was last night, laid out after he got put to sleep. Huge Roddy chants from the crowd. Hogan says it's not going to go down that way. You're a liar, Piper. Tell him how I dogged you last night. Piper says he's only a dog when he wee wees on the fire hydrant. He's the icon. You got to smell it, eat it, and poop it, which is a weird line. Hogan tells Piper he's a lucky person. Piper says, if you have something to say, won't you spit it out? Because they do a bunch of back and forth where Hogan's like, I'm not going to talk if they're getting on my case and whatnot.
And Piper finally is like, quiet down.
Yeah.
So we can hear what he's got to say. Like,
Yeah.
he's about to get it moving here.
Right. So Hogan says it's about his family. We get some big oohs from the crowd. He reiterates the line from before where he says his son was begging him to take it easy on Pops, on Piper. Tony goes, "Oh, he shouldn't have gone there." and then Piper says, "Hey, let's do it one more time." So he takes off his shirt. He's ready to go. And then, of course, here comes the NWO to attack Piper from behind. Trash starts flying into the ring. This may be like the biggest occurrence since Bash at the Beach, where like huge cokes and popcorn was like banging off the heads of the NWO members, like really just coming in full throttle. So they go after the help of Piper. Giant is kind of stalking out as Hogan is choking Piper. We got Norton out there with them. They lift Piper up and drop him on Norton's knee. Hogan then gets a chair. He hits Piper in the hip with the chair, and kind of Giant standing there through all this attack. He's not like actively attacking Piper. And Hogan calls for the Giant to give a choke slam to Piper. So Giant picks him up, puts him in the chokehold. Nick Patrick comes into the ring to help us out. And then the Giant doesn't do the chokehold, just drops Piper down on the mat. That gets some big cheers from the crowd. Hogan gets back on the microphone and says, "Hey, we got a problem." And I like that, like Hogan, Nash, and Hall, you can see them kind of grouping up.
Yeah, they kind of huddle up. Yeah.
Yep. So we get this cool visual where we have all the NWO on one side. You have Giant standing in front of Piper, who's still laying there. Just a really neat like visual overall. The stretcher comes out to pick up Piper, and then we kind of kickstart what's going to be our next feud,
Mhm.
where Hogan says, "Here's the deal. Talk to me. You were my brother. What's the deal, man? You dropped the ball again. You know, your first strike was last night. Your second strike's now." And then he slaps the giant, says, "Three strikes. That's enough." So then once he slaps the giant hard, the giant grabs Hogan. Hogan just freaks out, and he kind of holds Hogan hostage here,
Mhm.
tells
Yeah,
the
he clears out the
NWO
ring.
to
Yeah.
get out of the ring, and demands his title shot. So he asks for his title shot. Hogan is crying and just
Yes.
like begging down, but eventually agrees. Hogan says, "I'm sorry," shakes his hand, gets out of the ring, and then immediately, of course, says, "Get him." So they
Well,
all
before that
come
too is great. He's like, "I
together.
love you. I didn't know it meant that much to you."
Yeah.
Like that was funny because like all he's done is bitch about it. Johnny's like, "I didn't know it meant that much."
Yeah.
I thought you were just joking. I didn't realize you really wanted this title shot.
So NWO just starts swarming in. Buff Bagwell comes off the top. He gets shoved off. Vince gets a big choke slam. NWO's team gets choke slam. Nash then attacks and they all swarm in again. They kind of hold the giant at bay. Hogan hits him with the belt. Bobby says this is disgrace. And Hogan says, this was, you were my best friend, but you dropped the ball. And then Hogan hits Giant with the belt in the face. While all this is going on, Piper's getting carted away on the stretcher screaming. So it's just a lot of chaos. You
Hmm.
got like a lot of screaming, a lot of crowd heat. It's pretty chaotic. But yeah, Hogan hits him in the head with the belt, and then we fade out with Piper leaving in the ambulance. So a pretty uh, I thought a pretty great NWO angle on here. Here we go. We say it again. Like, I did not remember this one either. Like, I did not remember this face turn. For Giant, it becomes so cliche, but
Yeah.
I thought it was well done. Like, I didn't have issues with this. I didn't, like in watching it back for this show, I didn't think it was like too brief. I mean, you could have stretched it out, but I thought it
Yeah, it's
made
been kind of
sense and I
stretched.
liked
Like,
it.
yeah, you don't need much more. Like, he has a legit beef. Like, he's not got. They had him in World War III to protect Hogan. He won. He earned a title shot. He wants a title shot. And not only they're not giving it to him, they're running down. They're running him down. So he's been sitting
Yeah,
on the sidelines for months. He's been on ice, doing Hogan's bidding. He's wasted 4 months, 5 months of his prime, and now they're all shitting on him. So he's like, "Why am I going to
right.
stick around with this bullshit? Like, give me my title match. I'm not doing your bidding anymore until you give me a title match. You're not going to give it to me. I'm out." And I liked it too. I thought it was a wild final segment. I thought the show honestly was flailing a bit. I think this saved it from being like maybe one of the lower end nitros we've seen overall. Like this definitely was a home run. Giant
Yeah,
turning to made all the sense in the world. Like he was one of our top. We'll talk about next episode, but one of our best guys in '96. We've been super into him, but he's been wasted the last few months. Like he really hasn't done a lot. So why not use him as a top guy for Hogan? We're not the Sting yet. They're clearly not ready for Luger yet, even though in theory Luger should probably be ready for Hogan based on where we're going. Piper's seems like he's done. Savage is gone. So like, who is there? So why not turn Giant back? They need a top guy. He's never really lost clean. Hogan fucked him at Road Wild. He never got his rematch. So like, why not go for
yeah,
it? The other thing too, when Piper's getting carted out, he's like yelling in like some gibberish language. So we'll
yeah.
we'll hear
The
more about
old
that in future
songs.
weeks.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, but being carted out. So
yeah.
anyway, so I thought it was a strong ending to what I thought was a shakier, kind of a disappointing Nitro coming off the big show.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting Nitro because I think there was matches that we said were good. There were segments that we liked, but there was also a lot of weird stuff too. So it's
Yeah,
it's
I think the
more
individual
uneven.
pieces were actually better than the sum
Yep,
this week.
agreed. I agree.
All right, so our awards quick. Match of the night to me was easily Mysterio versus Malenko.
Yep, his is a hidden gem.
Moment, Giants turn.
Yep,
MVP, I went with Hogan. I liked him in
yep,
both promos. I thought he was a good catalyst in
yeah.
all
Very
three,
good.
really. He was good in the beginning, too, with the limo.
Yep, very good Hogan night.
I didn't catch any shots fired.
Nope.
All right. Debuts, we had Octagoncito,
Yep.
Masquerade Sagrada, Morgan and Estrada.
Yep.
Road Report, Monroe, Louisiana. Sasaki used the classic Japanese
Mm.
music, so we get that. And final grade, I went 6 out of 10. I was leaning 5-ish until that close. With the Ray match, the Luger squash, and the main event all kind of bumped it up to late. Not the main event, this the promo bumped it up at the end for me. But I gotta say, this to me was definitely a little disappointing when you look at recent scores like 7.5, 8, 7, 8.5 for Starrcade. This felt like a step back after what's been like a real hot like 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I went 6 out of 10 too. Think you could have tightened it up, and it could have been a very good show. But
It's the
you
worst in a
know,
month. Like I had December 2nd at 5.5.
some stuff's out of their control, like the crowd, but they definitely could have helped with the booking too, and
Yeah.
just the pacing. Like you didn't need some of these matches. So
All right. Before we get to Raw, real quick, did you want to talk about the passing of Dean Rasmussen from DVDVR? Obviously, very sad. This is our
yeah,
first one recording since he passed, so
yeah,
that's why we're getting to it now. But we've talked about in the past, like we both kind of grew up with Death Valley Driver.
yeah,
Was our first big influence. I mean, I spent hours and hours and hours and hours, and anyone who grew up as any kind of internet wrestling fan in the early 2000s to mid 2000s like knows Dean in all capital letters with the
yeah.
tilde
Tilde.
and
Mm-hmm.
the exclamation point. I mean, right?
Tilde
That's
Bunny. Yeah,
everyone knows it. Everyone knows it. Him and you start to see the names that were popping up on Twitter, paying homage or people sharing memories like Phil and others. That just kind of brought back in some memories of those long form reviews and the discussion topics, and definitely started like the turn. I think guys like Will and PWO pushed it further, but like the turn away from the obsessive over work rate shit that seeped into the mindset, the culture in the early 2000s and late 90s, for better or worse. That was all about work rate, work rate, work rate. Small guys, fast guys. I think guys like Dean
yeah,
were big influences on opening your eyes to beyond that again to the benefits of big guys and different styles and the comedy stuff that still worked as legit stuff and finding those hidden gems. And he was just a big part of that. I wasn't as dialed in on some of the projects and stuff, but obviously knew him well, read a ton of his stuff. um, I joked earlier, not jokes, but tongue in cheek, I guess, that GoFundMe list was like just a who's who of wrestling signatories from the internet
yeah.
over the last 20 years. There's like just names left and right. And you say this about a lot of people that passed away lately, sadly. But another guy that you didn't see anything negative about, like just outpouring and the influence that he gave. It was definitely just a sad day when the news broke that he was close, and then like the next day he was gone.
Right. Yeah, it was sad. I think I don't know. It gets when you start to think about stuff like it gets weird where like it can feel like your self worth or whatever. But I always feel like Dean in some ways was like a great grandfather of like my progression as an internet wrestling fan, where it's like he was the pioneer on Death Valley Driver, and then you had Will and Charles on the PWO, and
Hmm.
then it's like, well, now you go another layer down that, and then you can see like even people now younger than me, like a lot of the wrestling with words guys that have like continued to carry that sort of hardcore, one percenters, of like your hardcore wrestling fans. So I didn't have a ton of direct interaction with Dean, but when I did, it was always very pleasant. It was later on, like dealing with the some of the projects like the All Japan 1980s sets and whatnot. So it was right when Dean was pretty much like riding off into the sunset as far as like writing or whatnot. But yeah, I mean, obviously somebody I read a lot, and
Hmm.
as I mentioned, like really him with the podcast was that was like a sneaky influential thing because those I mean, the podcast scene was so. I mean, you talked about it with place to be. Like it was so not much was there,
Hmm.
at all. You had like Meltzer and Keller hotlines and the
Yep.
Bruce Mitchell audio show, but all that was those were like they were the journalists, the news sources, and they did their own shows. Um, and then you had Between the Ropes, which was kind of with Brian Fritz, right? And you had the Law Guys that was doing some stuff too. But again, that felt like more official. So when
Seth Bates was like an early one that he was doing like he had just got fired. He did the behind the scenes stuff, right? Like where he was and with Lagana, like they were doing their stuff.
yeah, right.
Um, that kind of was like the first insider look at things,
Always it always
Yeah.
felt like it was more like official people though within it,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
not
Dean was a
many
true fan, right?
fan based, right?
Yeah.
So that's one thing I liked about the Segunda Caída,
Hmm.
um, because this was also a time where I had started, like, I mean, I started lurking at Death Valley Driver in 2000 at some point, but wasn't heavily posting and wasn't like that, and was like that for 10 years. Like I
Yeah.
never was like a prominent poster, didn't have any like internet friends or nothing like that. Just kind of hung around and read and interacted here and there, but never really plugged in fully. And Dean and them on the Segunda Caída, but I think you really got the flair with Dean, like in those early Segunda Caída podcasts that was on Talk Shoe, where you had to like dial in a number and just call up.
Hmm.
Like like Dean would be like on Wednesday nights, like you could hear like his family just like all this going on in the background, and he was like, "Oh, I'll be gone for 20 minutes. I gotta go pick up my daughter from church," and like he'd leave and come
Come back.
back. And yeah, I remember one time it was like his son's birthday party, so he was like, "Hang on, let me sing happy birthday to my son," and then 2 minutes later he's talking about a Dick Murdoch match. So it's pretty funny. Another like podcast memory. One year they were talking about the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame, and they were going down the list of nominees, and like the first nominee, Phil Schneider says, like at that point was like Abdullah the Butcher, and like Dean was like, "Wait a minute, you're telling me Abdullah the Butcher is not in the fucking Hall of Fame?" And Phil was just like, "This is
Right.
gonna be the whole list." Like Dean wants to put everybody in. He's
Yeah.
like appalled that nobody's in. But yeah, I mean, it just seemed like a great guy that very wholesome, very influential,
Yeah.
and like you said, really plugged you into a different type of wrestling, really changed that mindset and narrative where like these a lot of people talked about how like they discovered battle arts through him. So a lot of like Japanese wrestling, but I would say even like your people like Dick Murdoch and stuff
Right.
like that. Like those were people that if you grew up in the age I did, like predominantly WWF and then some WCW mixed in, like Dick Murdoch was like, oh, who's this fat redneck guy? And then you watch his matches and you're like, oh wow, this is great. And same like somebody like Buddy Rose. So
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, and if you weren't
yeah,
like tuned into Meltzer or any of the sheets or whatever, like your early progression was Keith, CRZ, some order there, right? And then you found message boards. It was DVR, Smart Marks Forum,
yep,
PWO. Like, like that was kind of like the five right there, right? Like
yep.
that to me at least, that was my journey. Was little stuff sprinkled in, one
Other
wrestling and all
arena
that
for
shit.
me,
Yeah, and
but
stuff
yep,
like that. Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah. Other
wrestling
arena.
classics, but yep,
Yep.
yep,
Yep. And Wrestle Crap. I mean, that was a big one early on, right? I
yep,
mean, so there was a lot of that.
yep.
But that was kind of the progression. But DVR was there, and the green, for as absurd as it was as a look, it stood out. Like the
Mhm,
green made you immediately DVR. I'm on DVR. I see the green board. I know where I'm at.
mhm.
So it definitely stood out. So rest in peace to Dean. If anyone wants to share any memories in the comments here too, feel free. But we definitely lost a legend of the ever expanding circle of the internet wrestling community for sure. So
Yeah, I mean, you see, like I don't know, like it just goes to show, like it's one of those things where it's like a domino effect, right? Like I didn't interact with him, like I said, personally very much
hmm
at all, but I mean, he obviously had an effect on that. So, like, if I hadn't have discovered those guys, if I hadn't have progressed my fandom the
hmm
way I did by seeing these guys, you know, show me other stuff, would I
right,
still be a wrestling fan? Who knows? So,
yeah.
you don't know. And it goes for anybody. Like you saw, like, like Tony Khan donated
hmm
$5,000. I mean, that's
Well, he was a big member of that
Yeah,
That
it goes all the way up. Like, I mean,
yeah.
that's so.
Anyway. Okay. Well, we're gonna pay tribute to him by reviewing a crappy Raw and see if we can find
Yeah,
anything redeeming about it. So, let's
not much.
head to December 30th, 1996. It is our final show we're gonna talk about in the year 1996 from the Knickerbocker Arena in Albany, New York. We open with Vince McMahon narrating a video package, the ongoing issues between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. We're gonna have a face-to-face tonight. We get quick promos from each, just kind of giving warnings. And as you mentioned earlier, Chad, this is a live Raw, so it's kind of a rare non-night after pay-per-view live Raw. I think they had too many weeks between In Your House and the Rumble, so they kind of did
Yeah,
2 weeks in Florida. Now they go up north here, and I guess then they're going to go back to Texas, but
yeah, we'll do
kind of
like
bouncing all over.
3 weeks here. Yep. Did you hear
Well,
what Sean said in his line?
what do you say?
Says I'm WWL's favorite degenerate.
Oh, there you go. A little
Yeah.
foreshadowing, perhaps.
Mhm.
I wonder if they wanted to get back up north too to do Shotgun because they're going to do that live right after this. So maybe they just
Um,
wanted to be up north for that.
I think it's more of a calendar thing too, because like the holiday they always do that stretch in
Yeah,
the
MSG and
Northeast.
everything.
So,
So yeah.
yep.
All right, we get our opening animation. We then head to the ring for our opening match, which is Farouk and Stone Cold Steve Austin taking on the real Double J Jesse James and Savio Vega. Quite the tag match. Yeah, Farouk and Austin is such a random freaking team right now. I kind of like it in a way because it feels like the old classic early '90s WCW, like just random tag matches you get on Saturday night with like two top heels against two mid card face. Like this, the format feels kind of cool. Like Dustin and Shane Douglas take on Austin and Rude or something like that. It felt kind of like they were coming together for a big tag. Vince wishes a happy new year as we go right to the ring. Farouk is out PG-13. Austin follows. We find out that Austin was beaten by two jobbers on Superstars due to a fluke, and then he destroyed their ankles after the bell. Out comes Jesse James. Austin attacks James in the aisle, beats the shit out of him until Savio makes a save. We start officially. Vega gets some offense. Austin fires back. Farouk tags in, gets a spinebuster for 2. The crowd is just, for a live show, the first match of the night, just in a coma. Vega gets his boot up on a charge. Bret is watching backstage. Farouk catches Savio with his head down. He tags Austin, who pours it on. Vega gets a flash near fall. Austin's tight all over him. Runs into a spin kick, though. Savio gets an enziguri. He tags Jesse James for the likely the quietest hot tag in history. James gets a bulldog for 2 to a smattering of claps. Austin sneaks out and tags Farouk. James comes back, unloads a flurry, but misses a charge and flops to the floor. Austin takes out his leg. Bret Hart comes out, and the crowd finally wakes up. Austin and Farouk stand in the ring as Bret helps out James, but he's in really rough shape from the knee. Bret lobbies to take Jesse James's place as we go to break. When we come back, Bret is on the apron. He's in his jeans. Farouk is working over Savio. Savio breaks a sleeper with a jawbreaker. Austin blocks the tag. Austin cranks a chin lock. Vega rallies and cuts through him until he eats knees on a splash. Vega gets an electric chair on Farouk. And we get the first, I think, official Nation of Domination. Farouk, please, no. When he's standing over Savio, Savio stands up. We're going to track those along the way. Bret finally gets a tag. The crowd wakes up as he cleans house. Bret loads the sharpshooter on Farouk. Crush jumps him, and they beat Bret and Vega until Ahmed comes out. He saves with the 2x4. He challenges Farouk to a fight. Vince confirms that Farouk and Ahmed Johnson will be fighting at the Royal Rumble. And that's that. So fine tag match, like it's fine. But I mean, this literally may be the quietest crowd in Raw history. Like we've had some bad crowds, but this match was the dead silence. You didn't think it was silent?
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know what was in the water. I
My
mean,
God, they were just comatose. Like it was like you could literally hear like one clap when James
yeah,
did that bulldog.
yeah,
Um, Austin and Farouk could be lethal if they like worked as a team. They just kind of existed as two pieces in a team. Savio and Jesse or whatever, just a team here. Bret woke the crowd up, so good on him, I guess. They drew it out. They had that woke up the Vega hot heat segment at least when Bret was waiting on the apron. Why not have Vega his job? He could have done that too instead of the DQ. Whatever. I went 2.5 because the match again to me was fine. It's just all in the crowd was just fucking asleep.
yeah. Maybe a holiday thing, but like both Raw and Nitro
Largesse,
crowd
holiday
pleasing,
largesse.
I guess. I went 2.5 too. Like the glass shatter gets 0 pop, which is weird to see. Like this may be the
Yeah.
last time that legitimately gets no reaction. Like we talked about it. He never cools off, and yeah. We hadn't actually had Vega for a while. It's been like a month or so, I think.
Banged up, maybe.
Yeah, no Ross on commentary too. Like usually
Mhm.
the commentary booth. Sometimes, a lot of times, that's four or
Right.
more in the booth. This is just King and Vince. The match itself was fine. Like I think Brett coming in helped things.
Mhm.
I thought James getting attacked singing a song was funny. And Nation of Domination's looking pretty good, and for Ahmed still looks hot. Like that's one thing I didn't. It'll be interesting to track him too as we go to 97. Like
Yeah.
if it's just the injuries is really what does him in, or if the crowd is starting to wane on him before. But like right now, like besides Brett, he probably got the second best reaction here. It wasn't like they hated him. I mean, they weren't overexcited for
Right.
anything, but of all things considered, like he got a better reaction than Austin. And you
Oh
think
yeah.
like, well,
Easy. Yeah.
who's been getting the bigger push in the last couple
The
months?
biggest pop was easy though. It was, oh, please no, please no. All right.
It really
Speaking of
was.
the dead, we go to George and Adam. They're in the Alamo Dome talking about Christmas. Oh, they're still waiting there through the holidays at the Alamo
Yeah.
Dome.
Thanks for the Christmas present. What Christmas present? Exactly. So,
Vince hypes up the Royal Rumble coming on January 19th. He thinks Brett may have a target on his back and
yeah.
be out of the Rumble quickly.
Well, he
That's it.
said
He's
he
gonna be
may be
done.
the first one out. He
Yeah,
said
that's
like
it.
they could be the first one out. Meanwhile, while all this is going on, they put that announce table so close to the guardrail,
Hmm.
and there's a kid that like is just constantly like bothering King and like kind
Yes.
of like swatting at him, and you could tell like King is ready to just like legitimately sock this fan. Like
Yeah, he's
he's
just like all on
ready.
his grill.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so Vince hypes that up, and he says, only one man tried to help Brett tonight when he was getting jumped, and that's proof
Right.
that he's going to be targeted. All right, to the ring we go. Flash Funk takes on Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Flash and the Funkettes are out. Vince is horned up as always. Hunter joins from backstage. He puts over Flash as a wrestler, says he doesn't deserve a title shot, though. Vince says, well, it is non-title, so maybe you're right. Hunter defends against Goldust at the Rumble, and he says he'll take care of Goldust and show Marlena what a real man is like. Flash dances out for a while. We get Goldust music. He saunters out with Marlena down the stairs. He sits up in the crowd. After a break, Hunter's in the ring. We get set. Flash peppers around on Hunter to start, throws him around, dances while he does it. Flash keeps flipping through Hunter, hits a nice kick and a moonsault press. Flash misses a cross body block. Hunter takes over this methodical offense. King keeps taking shots at Goldust and Marlena. Hunter works over Flash. Hunter cuts off a comeback. He's grinding as King keeps going in on Goldust over and over. Vince is arguing with him. Hunter goes to a chin lock. We go to a break with the Full Metal. After the break, Hunter goes into an abdominal stretch. Flash breaks free. Hunter gets back to work as Vince hypes up the debut of Shotgun Saturday Night, live from the Mirage nightclub in New York City. Hunter keeps clubbing away as King gets on the house mic and rips Goldust, tries to bait him down, calls him a freak. Flash mounts a comeback, gets a twisting press for two. Hunter grabs the belt, he hits Flash with it and picks up the win. Goldust stalks King to the back. Hunter follows, but Funk stops him and makes a save. Flash throws Hunter in the ring and hits the funky Flash splash, otherwise known as the bomb in the ECW arena. Fine match, kind of slow. But it's Hunter. He's proficient in not being exciting. So it's his specialty. Just kind of grinds along. Flash had a couple nice spots, but the energy just matched the dead crowd. King derailed it with the getting on the mic and baiting Goldust, but everyone was asleep by then anyway. Finishes whatever. Hunter can never win clean. Never wins clean. Gets worked after the bell on top of it. So I don't know how this makes him look good at all. He uses the belt to beat Flash Funk, who's not been presented super strong, and then Flash works him over. 2.5. This is a match. Like we could talk about the progression of Hunter. All right, you're into a Scorpio, you got some time. Like, give us something. And it's like him and Mero constantly get these chances to impress, and they don't do anything with it.
Yeah, I I thought this was like my least favorite Hunter match in probably a while.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Because
up there.
even with the Marrow stuff, it's like you can blame him for a lot of it.
Mhm.
Funk has a terrible gimmick, as we talked about, but he
He can still
was,
go.
yeah,
He's not working a style that's hindering him in ring. I
I
mean,
thought
he's
I thought he was ready to like rev it up at points in this match, and Hunter
yeah,
actively like dogged it and drug it to a stop, like with chin locks and just nothing that was helping. There was zero heat for this match, which was also awful. And then I don't know if it was just like the lack of reaction or their audio was screwed up,
mhm.
but you hear like this like spattering of clapping at one point that is just like very loud, like it's just like it's so loud, and that's all you hear. These two guys that are clapping in this big crowd, and it drove
Yeah.
me nuts.
That's what I heard
Um,
in the opening match too. It's like that's how dead it was. You could hear like individual clapping.
it's
It's
very bad.
yeah,
The stuff with Gold Dust and King. I mean, we talked about that. Like after Goldust declared he was not gay. In fact, like Vince
mhm,
even brings it up. He's like, "Well, you found out what Goldust is not." Like
right.
they're still going with that. Like I understand they're facing each other tonight, but who cares? Like they're derailing the match. So overall, this was a pretty. I found this to be a pretty big loss for the mid card
Yeah.
in WWF at the time, because these are guys that all have some
These are the
semblance.
young guys that they're trying to push,
Mm,
and they should be able to have something. This should
Yeah,
have been a minimum 3-star. Like
yeah. None of
given the
this seems
time they
very
get and
interesting.
who's involved, like All right, we get a shotgun promo. It's gonna be a rock and smoking, sexy good time for Todd Pettengill. Then we see Shawn Michaels backstage. He's in a surly mood. He's ready for the big showdown in a few moments. We get a hype for the WWF Live tour. They'll be in San Diego, Stockton, Los Angeles, Fresno, San Jose, Anaheim, Las Vegas, and then El Paso before the Rumble. So a weird tour they got going on. Like they were in Florida, now they're in New York, then they're going to the West Coast, and then Texas. I don't know, it's
Yeah,
just
I guess they're
this felt
driving back home. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
just kind of felt random. To go see Marty Robbins in El Paso to wrap it up.
Mhm.
JR is in the ring. He brings out Shawn Michaels a big pop. Brett follows. He's smirking a bit. Ross hypes the Rumble. He says Hart has to face Vader next week, and Shawn will be on commentary and promises he will not interfere. Ross wants to start with Shawn, but Shawn defers. He plays up the greatness of the almighty Brett. He's just a low life degenerate. Brett can go first. Brett's ready to unload and says that Shawn just did. He finds so disrespectful his overall attitude and talking about how much he respects Jose Lothario. But when Jose jumped on the apron and cost Shawn the title, the next day he got up and apologized for interfering. But Shawn learned nothing from that. He didn't learn anything about respect and integrity because when Shawn cost Brett the title, there was no apology. And that's just the beginning. When Brett looks at Shawn, he thinks about getting screwed at WrestleMania, and Shawn promised to carry the belt with pride and class and never came close. Brett has two sons at home. They used to look up to Shawn, but now he's at the bottom of the barrel posing for Playgirl, and he doesn't think girls are the ones that buy that magazine. That's a pretty famous line, which I thought came later. Maybe he says it again later, but I didn't realize that it came this early. Brett finally gets a new mic because the old one was cutting out on him. Brett says Shawn has degraded the title. If you're not 14 years old and female, if you're a male and you have an opportunity to see what kind of man Shawn is, he wants to know whose man are you. Shawn cost him the belt. He sat and watched Shawn what he did to WWF. He's got no class. He's a disgrace and welcomes a chance to get in the ring, title or not, which is a key line because obviously at this point the plan is WrestleMania non-title, right?
Yep.
So he says, title or not, I'm gonna promise you that Shawn, all the dancing in the world won't save you. He's going to kick his ass just because he can. Brett was really feeling it, I thought, at the end there. Vince says Brett showing no class.
Yeah.
Not Shawn, it's Brett. Shawn says he hopes Brett got the bug out of his butt and says that he sees Brett on the road, and Brett's no role model either, and that's a fact. So that was a pretty good dig by Shawn. Before Shawn can really get going, though, Sid comes out and grabs the mic. He says he's played the game with both guys. They both lost. It's his title. What he wants is some real competition. The gong hits, the lights dip, and Undertaker emerges. He comes out to a big pop, but Vader jumps him from behind. They brawl. Sid comes down and stares down Taker, but Vader knocks him over. Taker stalks Vader to the back as Brett standing between the ropes. Shawn kicks the middle rope into Brett's nuts and then jumps out of the ring and brawls with Sid. And that's that. So, after a lot of sluggishness on Raw, this was a nice sign that maybe the main event scene is really catching fire. Like it's clear they see all these guys in the mix, and we didn't even have Austin, but we had Brett, we had Shawn, we had Sid, we had Taker, we had Vader, all establishing that they're main event players. The hate between Brett and Shawn feels very real here. I thought this was the most direct and in their faces they've gotten. I was surprised. I did not remember the shooting starting like this early. Like in my mind, Brett was kind of antiseptic until after the Rumble. ramped up a bit, and then the Brett Sean stuff really started in earnest, like in the spring. I did not remember in December that like they were in there with some of these lines, like Sean basically saying Brett cheats on his wife, and Brett saying Sean's gay. Like all this stuff is
Yeah.
pouring out here at the end of December, and we're not even close to Mania at this point. So they're getting the early hype in for sure. Taker coming out with Sid, you can see that they were definitely leaning toward a Taker Sid and a Brett Sean Mania setup. Like I think it's pretty clear. And I don't know if Vader's just kind of a red herring right now, but it seems like that's the path they're going with these guys.
Yeah, I think the hate is palpable, obviously, between Brett and Sean. I like the segment. I think my main issue is still with Sean and how he acts in these segments.
I thought
It's
this was
where
better though.
I still didn't think like it's still tough for me like to have any. I mean, I guess maybe I'm not 14 or a girl, so maybe Brett was talking to me, but like I can't get behind like how you would cheer for him
Right.
in this. And that's where like if I want to compare it between the two shows, like I thought this was a good
Mm-hmm.
segment, right? I thought Hogan versus Piper was great though because that's like I like both of them, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
really surprised at saying that because like I really thought, and I'm sure, I mean he does go off the rails, but so far like Piper's been locked in, right?
Yeah.
Like I've been surprised at how locked in he's been on the WCW side, which I wouldn't have anticipated compared to this. But I mean, this was certainly a step in the right direction. Like you had all the guys out there. There's a lot of mayhem. Vince called.
It felt alive. Like, and we don't get that a lot right now in Raw. Like, but it felt like, all right, there's something going on. Like there's stakes, there's heat. Like these
Yeah,
guys don't like each other and they want the world title. Like, and there's a mix of guys for the world title. It's not Sean's contender of the month. Like it felt like finally we're kind of, it just felt awoke.
Pat sweaters out of control. Pat Patterson sweater.
Always this
I
Christmas.
did think another like minor critique is like the slingshot dive that Sean does on top of Sid looks really good.
Mm.
But then their like little brawl before everybody gets in was pretty horrid. Like they're just it was one of those like like
Right.
insanely wild punches that had no chance of
The
hitting.
kick to
But
the rope into the nuts was funny though.
yeah, that was good. Yeah, I mean it was a good segment.
I just didn't remember some of that classic stuff coming in this promo.
Well,
Like
I mean,
yeah. The
you really think
Playgirl and
like
Brett saying, "Whose guy are you?" Like I would have guessed that was like March, like not
yeah.
here.
I mean, Sean and Brett, they didn't really like each other for a while, but I mean, we're at the stage now where they hated each other. Like
Mm.
it, I mean, it's legitimately they hated each other for over a year, I'd say, before Montreal. So
Yeah.
you can see it's definitely a slow like bubbling, and then I mean they have the fight like legit fight before that, but
It's
like it's
interesting what
crazy.
the plan for Austin was
Well,
because
Bulldog,
it's
I still think Bulldog.
yeah, Bulldog, right? We talked about that. I
Yep.
don't think they thought Pillman was going to be back.
No. I
Yeah, so it's Bulldog. Yeah, it's Brett, Sean, Taker, Sid, Austin, Bulldog. Yeah, that
Yep.
definitely seems like your top three.
And
And
then
then I think
something
Mankind Vader was
Nate
on the books too. Yeah,
and then Nation versus
yeah,
Ahmed.
Ahmed
Yep.
and
And
some. Yeah,
that's pretty much,
that's your five.
yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's that's a pretty good five. It's
Yeah.
tough to take a world where you lose Brett Austin at all, but I mean, if they would have gone in with that five, Brett Sean with some heat, not just face. Taker Sid, we already know what that's going to be. Austin Bulldog, I think would have been good. Mankind Vader, if they let them go at it,
Yeah, it's
maybe.
just interesting to think like if you could have get um yeah, I mean the key there is gonna be getting Brett versus Sean to
Hmm.
be like a hot angle. Like beyond like bringing their real life animosity on screen and developing intrigue.
Well, the plan, it was 13 was where they said the plan was to Brett, or was that Brett's suggestion, right? Wasn't it to break Sean's ankle with the fake foot or whatever?
Mm,
I think Brett talks about it in his book. I think it was
maybe.
they had talked about doing an angle where Brett does like an ankle lock and like break Sean's ankle, and they were going to use like a gimmick boot or something and twist it, and then
Mm,
Sean would come back eventually and get the win back or something like that, or however Brett would march on to lose to Austin, whatever it was. But that was
right.
like that's kind of what Brett talked about in his book, I think.
Okay.
All right, we get a Rumble promo by Vince, and then head to our main event, our last match of 1996. Kind of fitting it's Goldust, I guess. I
Yeah,
mean, he's
I
been the
guess.
stalwart of 96, taking on Jerry the King Lawler. Hunter Helmsley and Honky Tonk Man are in the booth. King heads out. We get our Starburst rewind. We go back to earlier when Ahmed cleaned house. After the break, Goldust is in the ring. He hops down, tries to get at Hunter. King jumps from behind. King peppers away. He chokes at Goldust as Hunter talks shit about taking Marlena. Honky Tonk Man says he's going to find the next great Intercontinental Champion, which I think is actually pretty funny. It's like another subtle burial of Hunter because not only did he like get punked earlier, Honky is sitting next to the IC champion and says, "I'm going to find the next great champion."
Yeah.
like he's not even considering Hunter as a great champion. Like
Yeah.
it's like such a subtle shot at Hunter.
Hunter on commentary right after he says that says, "Well, look no further than right here."
And Honky's like, it's just like he's just cocking him right in the booth. It's like it's so weird. Like it's like as much as you always hear like, oh, they were over pushing Hunter down, they're like, he still hasn't been pushed wrong. Like Perfect had to save him in the master plan. He's looked like kind of a bitch through all this stuff. Like I guess we'll see in 90. I mean, obviously we know what's coming, but for now, like he's
Yeah.
still kind of presented like a flunky.
Well, I mean,
Ironically, like Honky, I guess.
he's being pushed as their traditional heel, right?
Yeah,
Like, I mean, how many competitive matches does somebody like Rick Rude win clean?
yeah.
Like Bobby still had to pull Warrior's leg for him to
But
win.
that's Warrior. I mean, we're talking Flash Funk on TV. I mean,
I mean,
Rude,
it's who
yeah,
they got. It's who
I
they
know.
got.
Just beat him. Just beat one guy. It's like just beat
Yeah.
anyone except for Mero. He beats Mero
Well,
like a
this,
fucking drum.
I mean,
but
this shows
everyone else.
right. This shows their progression, though, like where like they are having these quote unquote competitive matches that they never had, like in
But
the
your IC champion
Superstars and
should. I mean,
Challenge Run.
I know it's unique right now because they have 5 main event guys, like 5 or 6 deep on the main event. So in most years, the IC champion is probably like your second guy in theory, right? Like right now, he's probably their 7th best. So fine, maybe he's not as strong as a traditional IC champion, but like just this episode alone, he looks like a bitch. Like he barely beats Flash Funk. He gets laid out. And then here, Honky Tonk Man of all friggin' people is like putting him in the shine box. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
but
gonna
that
find the next great champion, not you.
don't you think that's just how they booked heels? I mean, Vader looked like a bitch, and look how big he is. Like
Yeah.
that's just how they booked heels. I mean, they're either
Vader got
like
over that, like on TV. He beat Sean
psychopaths,
clean,
though.
huh?
I mean, but I Vader like ran away from everybody. Like
Yeah, but
he
he
got,
broke Yoko's leg. He beat
I
Sean
guess, but
clean.
he still
Beat
like
up
it was
Warrior.
one
Like he
step
did
forward, two
stuff.
steps back. We talked about it. I mean, you're never gonna put like all right, like his size advantage. I'm not defending. I mean, it's terrible. I'm just saying, like, I don't know what else I would have expected at this point. Like,
Hunter
yeah,
should be
they
Flash
should have
Funk with the
progressed
pedigree.
from that. They should have progressed from that, but they hadn't shown
I'm not asking
evidence
for a lot.
they
2
would.
things on the show could have changed the presentation. Beat Flash Funk with the pedigree. Not crazy. Just have a competitive match. Flash gets a close near fall. Hunter catches him with the pedigree. It's a Flash move anyway. So hit it and he wins. And then Honky doesn't like Honky could have just talked a little bit more about
Well,
Hunter.
that's just
Hey Hunter, you're a great champion. I'm getting ready in case down the line. Like just do the heel thing where they're fluffing each other up. He's not even doing that. Like Honky's just like, it act like he doesn't exist. I don't know. Like I said, unless it's Mero, Hunter never does anything. He kicks the shit out of Mero though every single
it's
time.
a high expectation for Honky to be self aware to help everybody else.
Well, Vince could have plugged
So,
it along a little bit.
right.
Hunter does say he's the greatest. He says to Vin, maybe Honky will pick you, and Honky just ignores it. King takes over. He chokes on Goldust. Hunter leaves the booth to get closer to the ring. Honky says, guys like Hunter get too distracted. Hunter scoops up Marlena, carries her away, but Mero shows up to block their path. Goldust stalks after him and clobbers Hunter. Hunter and Marlena flop to the floor. This is like, I mean, if this doesn't sum up Mark Mero's 1996, I don't know what does. So Hunter throws Goldust into the railing. We're like toward the back of like the aisle near the Raw letters or whatever. He throws Goldust to the railing. Mero is like keeled over in the aisle. He gets up. Hunter just walks over and just slugs him in the fucking face. And Mero just drops. And then King is in the ring. He wins by count out. and that's it. Marlena's on the ground. But like Hunter did nothing this whole night until Mero comes out, and then he knocks him out like he's fucking Mike Tyson in 1989. Like it was just like hilarious, and like Mero just goes down like a load of bricks. It's like Mero just looks like such a bitch at all times with Hunter. I mean, even here where he comes out to save Marlena, he can't even get at like Hunter just punches him in the face and he falls over. Whatever. To me, it was like a coda on Mero's year of '96, where he never did anything productive and worked by Hunter every time they fought. I went a star and a quarter. This is a fucking debacle.
Yeah, star for me. Lawler winning the last match in 1996 kind of
But
sums
count
it
out.
up too. Yeah, stupid. That was not good.
No, Mero getting punched was the only highlight of the whole thing for me.
Well, I did like him catching Marlena, the Goldust immediately running into him. That was a beanie.
It just looked like a stooge out there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Mero needs a change. He needs like, I know they were kind of planning it coming up, so we'll see. But like, he needed a heel turn or something. Like he's going nowhere. Like he's just lost completely right now. He's been lost for a while. He's really since Austin. It was that trio of Austin beat him twice, and then Goldust beating him at SummerSlam, and then getting hosed by Perfect and being the patsy. Like he's just never recovered from any of that.
Right.
All right. I guess match of the night was the tag.
Yeah.
Austin Farouk.
No other choice.
The Hart Michaels face to face segment of the night.
Yep.
I gave Brett MVP.
Yep.
Shots fired. I didn't have any.
Nope.
No debuts.
Nope.
We had the one Farouk, please no. I mean, for all my complaints, I ended up going 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Like the matches were both 2.5, the big matches, so middle of the road. We had some bad at the end, but I liked Brett and Sean a lot. So like everything kind of washed to an even Steven for me.
Yeah.
5 out of 10. Like without Brett and Sean though, we're talking maybe one of the worst.
There's still I'll say like I think Raw's getting helped by still only being an hour.
Yeah, that's I mean the last episode I had 3.5. So I liked it. Like that was a bad one. This was not great, but at least I think Brett and Sean at least added some juice.
I thought
it was a long segment.
One good segment. Yeah, one good segment and nothing else was.
But it was long. It was a long part of the show.
Yeah, I mean, I went 4.5. I don't know. This is just another one of those Raws where when I talk about it, I'm like, well, man, I'm saying this is average. It was not great, but then I'm like, well, it was 45 minutes, so it was, I guess, quick enough. Not great though. I mean, still not great. There's a lot of problems. 4.5. There's problems. There's still problems. A lot of problems.
All right, let's get to our combo awards real quick here. So best show, obviously Nitro.
Yeah.
Match of the night, Ray and Dean.
Yeah.
Fittingly for tonight, Dean. Best moment, I went Giant turning on the NWO.
Yep.
Okay. Better commentaries, Nitro.
Yeah, Bobby did have to see you, but I'd say like Bobby was better than he'd been in a couple of weeks, and Gene's been better than he'd been in a while. So
and Tony's always great.
Good commentary. I mean, Larry may have been worse with his stop wearing earrings. A lot of anti-gay stuff tonight on both shows.
Star of the night, Hogan.
Yeah.
Okay. And ratings, obviously, knows Nitro.
Yeah, let me look. I had that pulled up. It was a let's see. So Nitro last week did a 3-1. This week they did a 3-6. That's to be expected. That's their biggest rating since a 3-7 on the November 11th Nitro. So, biggest rating in like 8 or 9 weeks. For it to be a holiday edition, that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So they killed it. Raw was actually up 0.1, so basically flat, but went up from a 1.5 to a 1.6. But that shows where we're at. Like they're a 1.6 and Nitro's a 3.6. So they're
just getting crushed.
They more than doubled. Competitive. They more than doubled them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not even competitive right now.
Yep.
All right, check out everything we have to offer here at North South Connection. A lot of content on video coming at you daily, some shorts, some longer form stuff. Everything's at northsouthconnection.com. And subscribe on our podcast apps. If you can do us a favor, like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff helps. Appreciate it. Smell the napalm. We'll be back in 2 weeks to wrap up 1996.